Good evening and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show on this Friday, the 8th of September. Welcome to everybody out there and welcome to my fellow panelists, Abu and Stopspamming. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hi, where are we? Are we on Gin and Tonic? No, we're on the Speaker's Corner UK, right?
We're on the Speaker's Corner UK channel, yes. Obviously, the Gin and Tonic is still not unbanned live streaming yet. So for everybody who's watching, guys,
just as information, the Master Arab gave me a guy who is now sort of evaluating the stuff, and I gave him the information. So I'm waiting to see if there is any effect on the Gin and Tonic Show that we might be able to get even the original one back from a couple of years ago. I don't know what kind of effect this is going to have.
Yes, that'll be great. You know, all this, I think they're starting to feel the heat, hopefully, of this banning and stuff like that. Good evening to everybody in the chat as well. Good to hear from you. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Because obviously Abu's got something to talk about. Stops, you also had a few topics. So we'll obviously chat about Abu. I've got a couple of crazy comments, not many. And we'll just see how we go tonight. If you're watching and you'd like to join us, let me know. You have to friend me on Facebook. And I want to make sure that nobody gives out the link to anybody else. Especially if you're a Muslim and you want to join us, then obviously we welcome you to come in and have a conversation with us. So without further ado, I'm going to very quickly just do a couple of my crazy comments here, and then I'm going to hand over to Abu. So let me just bring up my wonderful and crazy comments here. Where are we? There we go. All right, so let's share the screen here and present that to everybody. So starting us off, as often is the case, my old faithful commenter, Matt Allen. Again, I don't know if he's a troll or not, but this was, I think, after the show last week. Matt commented, after listening to these two alleged Muslim girls, I'm convinced they are anything but Muslim. No one teaches hadiths to 9-year-olds about the age Aisha was, or Muhammad, for that matter. These matters are not even discussed with adults because to Muslims, they are irrelevant. Well, of course they would be. It's evidently clear they are talking after the fact, regurgitating anti-Islamic propaganda. Hey, what better platform to have an Islamophobe hate fest than on Rob's show? Whatever helps the atheist sleep better at night. Hey, Rob? Gotta love this fella.
So funny. No, actually Mossad agents who are trying to corrupt people and sow doubt. Oh, come on.
I think he is the #1 crazy comment guy.
Yes, he's certainly up there as the top one, seemingly unable to help himself, but to put something in. Of course, they can't be real Muslims because no real Muslim would leave Islam, right?
But the this Islamophobic hate fest. There's no hate here, guys. We love everybody. All we're doing is we're giving facts.
This lady is new to the commenting on my channel. Apparently she's a lady, Muslim lady. Would you believe that one of these shaitanian lives in Doha of all places? Unbelievable. Should really get out and head back to South African hell he came from if he can't stand Islam. I hope some Qatari stumbles across this channel and you are harshly dealt with for your slander. And I replied, thanks for your peaceful and loving response. A wonderful example of a Muslim from the religion of peace.
And I asked him what he thinks
apparently it's
harshly is if I should be flogged publicly.
Yes. So yeah, there we go. There's two of the comments. I've got a few videos that I'll be releasing over the next sort of week or so. It's been slow. I've got a lot of work going on at the moment and so forth, and moved house and stuff like that. So from my 2 weeks ago. So I'll be releasing a few videos in the next, and hopefully I'll be down at the end of the month or early in October. As I say, I'm gonna still press Matt Dillahunty and see whether because he's coming down with what's his name, Sam Harris, etc., to London on the 1st of October. They'll be down somewhere in central London. So I think it's Harris, Dillahunty, and Krause or Dawkins, one of them. I looked at ticket prices and stuff, and it was like 80 quid for the cheapest ticket. And that's for 1.5 hours. We're not talking a whole day here either. They sit on the stage, chat amongst themselves. And so I can't accuse them of not going pretty expensive, but I guess when you become sort of more famous, then you can afford to charge that. So there we go. So Abu, without further ado, let me hand over to you as you're going to share with us some interesting information that you've come across over the last week.
Actually, I come across it today because, or yesterday maybe. This is like some people, I'm not sure exactly who they are trying to, like, they're making a sign-up partition or something like that against Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi, who that she would get her like Nobel Peace Prize back. So there's an article from Al Jazeera. We can quote some things. There are no more villages left, not at all. The accounts of systematic ethnic cleansing of Muslim in Myanmar, now effectively ruled by the world-renowned Nobel Peace Prize laureate Aung San Suu Kyi, are finally making it to the mainline news these days. There are no more people left either. It's all gone. The pathological hatred of Muslim ingrained in the leading US and European media, now aggressively replacing the historic anti-Semitism of these societies, scarcely allow them to see or to report the magnitude of the calamity masses of Muslims face at the hand of Myanmar security forces and the Buddhist nationalist violent mobs. Okay, I want to comment on this. The pathological hatred of Muslim in the leading US and European media. When I read, especially when I read the Scandinavian media, but like European media in general, I kind of get the feeling that they are very, very one-sided they have bought the kind of Muslim side's point of view completely. So
are you saying that they are pro-Muslim or anti?
Yeah,
let's call
yes.
it Islam.
Yeah, they are very one-sided. They like they say the exact same thing as like the Muslim side say, except that the Muslim side also say that, okay, but European media, they are so anti-Muslim. No, they're not anti-Muslim. They buy the most extreme side of this conflict, I think.
Did you ever find out why this is happening? Because I heard different versions here, and I also heard a version which makes the Muslims not quite innocent in this.
Yeah, I'm going to read the Muslim insurgency. I'm just going to show that article a little bit. Just a monument from in if there were Jews or Christian or else the peaceful Buddhists who were the subject of Muslim persecution. Compare the amount of airtime given to murderous Muslims of ISIL opposed to the scarcity news about the murderous Buddhists of Myanmar. Something in the liberal fabric of Euro-American imagination in cancerously callous, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so this is a normal kind of Muslim point of view. We are always the victims, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that they're not victims. I mean, there are horrendous crimes against Muslims there. But I'm just
But is it ethnic? Is Islam or a Muslim ethnic? And is that an ethnicity?
I will come back
Okay,
to
sorry.
that when I read. Nobel Peace Prize has become something more global recognition. The fact, however, is that it is a Swedish, Norwegian, or Scandinavian, European, or as they say, Western recognition force-fed to the world at large. We may agree or disagree with their choices, but their choices have become a global marker in science, literature, and peace. They make the decision for the world. We have to live with it. So there you get. We Scandinavians make the decision for the world. Today, Aung San Suu Kyi must be the single most embarrassing name on the roster of the Nobel Peace Prize recipients.
I think President Obama is.
Yeah, which I think there are few people in all the history of the Nobel Peace Prize that deserve it more than, if anyone, than Aung San Suu Kyi. And then you can take like Barack Obama, who got it before he had any time to do anything really well. He made some speech in Cairo or something like that, but he has said a lot of words, but then he went on and kind of continued the war and initiated.
I stand corrected. It's Henry Kissinger. You're right. He's even worse.
Yeah, Henry Kissinger. Yeah, that is he's a class in his own, a class of his own. But my point is that I can't think of anyone, at least, that deserve the Nobel Peace Prize more than Aung San Suu Kyi. There are choices they have made that, at the time they were made, they may have, in fact, have made some sense, such as Barack Obama. No, I don't think it makes any sense. He hadn't really done anything. And later you cringe at the very idea of it. Yeah, because he continued war against Muslims, which is great. I mean, it's kind of weird. And then there were choices they have made that make you reach for your pillow when you heard their names in association with Nobel Prize. For the first time, the director of poisonous gas factory, Fritz Haber, blah, 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 blah. So now I think there are many. The Nobel Prize that I take least seriously is the kind of Nobel Peace Prize thing. But anyway, the point is, the kind of Muslim media here is, oh, everybody, she's so evil, look at this. And it's always the Muslims who are the victims, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that they're not victims. I mean, as I said, there are horrendous things that you should condemn that are committed against Rohingya Muslims. But even here, and especially here in Scandinavia, I think the media coverage is pretty one-sided. Okay.
So before you carry on, can you explain exactly why she must give the prize back? What is it that she's supposed to have done or not done that
because she is kind of in the government now. It's unclear how much power she really has. I can't say. I'm not an expert on that. But the situation you have to remember that Burma is not the richest country in the world. It was led by a military junta, by like military dictatorship before she was released, and now they're in a process of democratization. But as you understand, like, you can't just turn a complete dictatorship into a democracy overnight. It takes time, especially in it's not a first world country. Like most Burmese people are not living like we are living. But I also feel that there is kind of historical, like, people don't put this in a kind of historical perspective. So I'm just gonna read the Rohingya insurgency in Western Myanmar. Maybe we should take background. The Rohingya people are an ethnic minority that live mainly in the northern region of, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Rakhine State, Myanmar, and have been described as one of the world's most persecuted minorities. They describe themselves as the descendants of Arab traders who settled in the region many generations ago. Some scholars have stated that they have been presented in the region since the 15th century. However, they have been denied citizenship by the government of Myanmar, which sees them as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. In modern time, the persecution of Rohingyas in Myanmar dates back to the 1970s. Since then, Rohingya people have regularly been made the target of persecution by the government and nationalist Buddhists. Okay, this may be more important. Mujahideen separatist movement, 1947 to 1960s. Early separatist insurgency In May 1946, Muslim leaders from Akaran, Burma, present-day Rakhine State, Myanmar, met with Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, and asked for the formal annexation of 2 townships in the Mayu region, Buthiadong Maudangwa, I don't know how to pronounce it, Maungdaw, by East Pakistan, present-day Bangladesh. 2 months later, the North Arakan Muslim League was founded in Akyab, present-day Sitwa, capital of Rakhine State, which also asked Jinnah to annex the region. Jinnah refused, saying that he could not interfere with Burma's internal matters. The Jinnah's refusal proposal were made by Muslims in Arakan to the newly formed post-independence government of Burma, asking for the concession of the 2 townships of to Pakistan. The proposal were rejected by the Burmese parliament. Local Mujahideen, important, local Mujahideen is the doer of Jihad, the one who does Jihad, were subsequently formed against the Burmese government and began targeting government soldiers stationed in the area. Led by Mir Qasem, the newly formed Mujahideen movement began gaining territory, driving out local Rakhine communities from their villages, some of whom fled to East Pakistan. In November 1948, martial law was declared in the region, and the 5th Battalion of the Burma Rifles and the 2nd Shin Battalion were sent to liberate the area. By June 1949, the Burmese government's control over the region was reduced to the city of Akyab, whilst the Mujahideen had possession of nearly all of northern Arakan. After several months of fighting, Burmese forces were able to push the Mujahideen back into the jungle of Mayu region near the country's border with East Pakistan. In 1950, the Pakistani government warned its counterparts in Burma about their treatment of Muslims in Arakan. Burmese Prime Minister Unu immediately sent a Muslim diplomat, Peking, to negotiate a memorandum to understanding so that Pakistani would cease sending aid to the Mujahideen. In 1954, Qasem was arrested by Pakistani authorities and many of his followers surrendered to the government. The post-independence government accused the Mujahideen of encouraging the illegal immigration of thousands of Bengalis from East Pakistan into Arakan during the rule of the area, a claim that has been highly disputed over the decades, as it brings into question the legitimacy of Rohingya as an ethnic group of Myanmar. I don't know how much we should read of this. Military operation against the Mujahideen between 1950 to 1954. The Burma army launched several military operations against the remaining Mujahideen in northern Arakan. The first military operation was launched in March 1950, followed by a second named Operation Mayu in October 1941. We jump a bit.
Decline. No, don't do the whole thing.
No, I don't do it. The point is, it's exactly. Not like, what I want to say is that, of course, we have to be against all kind of oppression and all kind of atrocities. But when you just read how at least here in Scandinavia, but I also feel like general kind of European press, they kind of paint this that one day suddenly the Buddhists just, you know what? We have some Muslims here that are living here. It would be fine to just attack them suddenly. That's not quite what happened. Okay, there's a longer historical background that goes, and the longer historical history is that there has been a long conflict between two ethnic groups.
Yeah, that's the story that I got, exactly.
Yes, today the so-called Buddhists have the upper hand, but this story goes back long before, and people don't understand that the Burmese Buddhists generally have a fear that they will be overrun and die out. So I just feel that you need a little bit of balance in this, and this kind of bashing of Aung San Suu Kyi, I think, is rather distasteful. So that's my take for you, but I'm open to hear other opinions.
Yeah, I don't know much about it other than what you've just said.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the summary is that it's not just a matter of now suddenly Buddhists going apeshit and killing Muslims for no apparent reason. There's a long history here, and this is, I think, what the message is in a nutshell. There is a huge, long, decade-old history here. And it's not only that suddenly the Buddhists are the aggressors. It's not a clear-cut case, the way that I always hear it, that all of a sudden Muslims, innocent Muslims, are being attacked. It's not the case. And that is exactly the message that we need to push out.
Yes, so I guess one would need to understand it, because Buddhists, it's a bit, apart from Shinto Buddhism in Japan, as far as I'm aware, and again, I'm happy to be corrected, there isn't any sort of violence normally associated with Buddhism as a ideology. I mean, again, somebody can point out where it specifically says in some text or some books or whatever the case that, as a Buddhist, you can do X, Y, and Z. I'm not aware of that, even in defense. But again, I could be wrong. I don't know much about Buddhism.
I mean, I have studied quite a lot Buddhism, especially Theravada tradition, which most Burmese people are. And of course, if you go to the Pali Canon and read what like the Buddha said, like even if you're like, there is kind of similar to Hadith, but Pali Canon is like kind of similar to Hadith, but it's more coherent. There's like the Buddha says that like even if you're attacked and robbed and they cut off your arm and feet and something, you should never resist. You should never do any kind of aggression. That is always wrong. So it has, so the aggression that the ethnic Buddhists do has absolutely nothing to do with Buddhism.
Okay, that is the point. Exactly. This is an excellent point. And this is where I think we should put out, some facts. Number one, it's not Buddhism. It's not Buddhists. It's nothing one of those. It is about politics. And this is the question where now this comes in. Why is it that Muslims are being targeted? And this has nothing to do with religion. It's about politics. And this is why, Marshall is now going crazy. You're being biased, those Buddhists. It's not about Buddhists going crazy against Muslims. It is one political group which is causing shit against the government in a country. And the country is now saying, listen, you guys, shut the fuck up. And that is what is happening.
Yeah, and like as I said, now or you could say like there is an identity conflict. There's an identity conflict between ethnic Burmese people and ethnic Rohingya is not really. If I remember this correctly, the Rohingya is not really even the word for the Muslims. I think that's the word for the political movement. So it's kind of twisted, but. It's an ethnic conflict, but this conflict it has roots way back in time, like at least decades, but probably even centuries. So it's not like I feel that it's very one-sided in the media.
Yes. Well, now one thing I want to point out though, I am totally condemning any kind of killing, okay? In the name of whatever, whoever, I don't care what political group, what group it is. I condemn all violence against anyone. So, okay, just to make that 100% clear, I condemn the killing of Muslims in Myanmar, in Burma. Okay, just to be 100% sure on this. What I am saying, however, is that it's multifaceted. It is not black and white the way that is being portrayed in the media. And this is, I think, is the message.
The other question to ask is there any Christians or other denominations in Burma? And if so, how come the Buddhists aren't attacking them?
Yeah, there's also Hindus, and the Hindus have this more kind of petty reasons, because they go against their own other Hindus because they are lower caste, and there are Christians as well, and they are not targeted. So, but that's because that's the reason is it's not a religious conflict in that sense. It's more an identity conflict or an ethnic conflict. But as I said, like, the Christians are not targeted as far as I know.
Answer, shut the fuck up. What is he doing? Peace, family, peace, family. It sounds like Sarah comes in here. Peace, family, peace. This is so funny. Okay, Victor Heller, what is he doing? It in Germany was a convention-like gathering, and there was a Protestant evangelic robot giving blessings to people. Oh, this is a classic. Are we going to have robot imams soon?
Yeah, we might have Harry joining us. Harry is a Sikh, and he's somebody that I chat to on private hangouts every so often. So, Harry, if you're watching, I've given you the link in Facebook, so feel free to join the link here.
When is Sam Harris going to be coming here? Didn't you invite him?
What, onto the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, no chance of that, I'm pretty sure.
What do we do? So should we start collecting $50,000 or what?
Yeah, I don't know who what shows he does and that sort of stuff. I've read his books, and I agree with most of his positions. I don't agree with everything he says and does.
Yeah, exactly. This is the point.
That's the thing. It's the same with anybody, really. I don't think there's a single person that I'm aware of that I agree with 100%. So.
And yes, there was a connection, because I'm just being asked, is there a connection between Muslims and Nazis 80 years ago? Yes, there was.
Can you elaborate on that?
Then it becomes a whole long thing.
Okay. Just briefly.
Yes, we have a lot of facts. We have a lot of photos. We have records. We have all sorts of things. We have entire SS divisions which were manned by Muslims. So there was a lot of cooperation between Muslims and Hitler. Even I remember in Tehran. Remember, I went to school in Tehran. If you told somebody that you were Almoni, then you already had a plus point, because the Iranians in those days still considered anything to be anti-Jewish to be positive. So this is quite a strange thing, and it's a thing that runs along in some countries, where they will take anything that is against the Jews as being positive. So being Armani was quite good.
I remember in Saudi Arabia, there used to be kind of, every year there was like this kind of book festival. We have something similar in Scandinavia, but I don't think it's the same time really. But this kind of book festival where you can buy cheap books. And one of the best sellers were a translation of Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. In Saudi Arabia.
Wow. Well, it's been released in Germany. Can you believe it? Because it was prohibited to sell Mein Kampf in Germany. Now it's been released, or liberated, or whatever you want to call it. But I don't think there's much to it. I think that all this stuff should be free to be discussed. The same thing as I don't think it should be a taboo topic to question the Holocaust. If somebody wants to question it, sure, go ahead. Why not?
I'm not against. Of course, you should be able to. I have read Mein Kampf, and it's a very bad read. It's extremely boring. One of the most boring things I read.
It's just the ramblings of a stupid idiot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not even that, because when he wrote that, he wasn't as crazy. They hadn't given him any amphetamines yet.
So. Somebody's asking in the chat, doesn't Sam Harris support torture? So what's Sam Harris' position, when I read it, if I remember correctly, is that he's comparing torture with collateral damage and going, which is worse? And he actually says torture should always be outlawed. However, if people knew that a particular terrorist could give them information under torture, then the torturers, although it's outlawed and illegal, should be able to torture a person if it would prevent collateral damage. In other words, there was a comparison, which is worse, torturing somebody to get information, or collateral damage when you think you have a target and there's a drone strike and you kill multiple people. And of course, with collateral damage, the argument is that we are desensitized. We are sensitized to torture because we can feel what that's like, or imagine what that's like if we were the person being tortured. But collateral damage, it's very hard to empathize there, because you just hear the words, there's a drone strike. It's like a modern day game, really. And even the pilots, sitting 100 miles away, don't even see what's going on, etc. So that was the position. So no, he doesn't support torture. There was again a thought experiment comparing torture to collateral damage.
It's like a tram car. It's like a tram car question. What are you going to do? It's not that you are physically throwing a switch. It's the thought of what is it? Where are the borders? When do you start becoming immoral if you are doing something to save somebody else? That's what it is.
Yeah, those thought experiments are hard, aren't they? They're not always easy. They're not like straightforward. That's why there's people have been studying morals and ethics for centuries, if not millennia. It's not an open and shut case, because you can always be presented with a thought experiment or a case where making a moral decision is extremely difficult to do.
I mean, it's the guys. I think he wrote that like. I mean, that is an example of like how dishonest some people are. They are trying to find something like cherry pick some things from Sam Harris. He was just making a point, like in a thought experiment, and then they take it out and blow it up to mean things that he doesn't mean. It's the same thing if you would make this thought experiment the trolley problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that mean that you literally should push a fat person down and kill him to say, no, we're not saying that we should kill fat people? Like that's a thought experiment, but yes, exactly. They can't handle even that.
I'm actually going to share this because this is something I'm going to debunk it here now. I'd like to do it on the in Speaker's Corner at some point, but it'll be worth doing it. I'll do it here now because Adnan Rashid runs around telling everybody that Sam Harris advocates a nuclear first strike, which is
that is one of the other things that they. So that is also the Young Turks. Also.
So there was the Young Turks, it was Azar Raslan and others, but I'm going to read it exactly here. So we've got it on the record on this Gin and Tonic show. So here's
why do people do that? I mean, for me, this doesn't make sense. It's so stupid because you can simply read it and you see, no, it's not true. So why do it?
Well, A, because they probably haven't read it, and B, because it's a good talking point. It's just another way to smear somebody who they feel is against Islam. So anything you can take out of context, having not read yourself or not taken the trouble to understand the context or what was actually being presented, is just a good way. Sam Harris advocates a nuclear first strike against the Muslim world or all Muslims. I mean, this is, like you say, it's completely dishonest and untrue, but it sounds good when you can say it in a single sentence and nobody's there to question you. So I'm going to read it out here. So here's, if you look there at the top there, there's a link there where it's an entire response to controversy. Oh, something's just happened there. What was that? Blog. Where's blog there? Oh, this thing just changes automatically. Yeah, that's not so good. Damn it. So there it is. And so I'm going to read his response to this claim, because here he says it. Whenever they appear, Christopher Hedges is a journalist who's said this multiple times in medias all over the show in the US. He's a left-wing journalist, and he smeared Harris with this comment. And so he says, your Hedges comments leave the impression that I want the US government to start killing Muslims by the tens of millions. Below, I present the only passage I've ever written on the subject of preemptive nuclear war, and the only passage that Hedges could be referring to in my work, The End of Faith, page 128, 129. I take the liberty of emphasizing some of the words that Hedges chose to ignore. It's a little bit long, but I'm going to read it so we've got it on record here in case anybody thinks that Sam Harris is in fact advocating a nuclear first strike on Muslims or the Muslim world or whatever. It should be of particular concern to us that the beliefs of Muslims pose a special problem for nuclear deterrence. There is little possibility of us having a Cold War with an Islamic regime armed with long-range nuclear weapons, in bold print. A Cold War requires that the parties be mutually deterred by the threat of death. Notions of martyrdom and jihad run roughshod over the logic that allowed the United States and the Soviet Union to pass half a century perched more or less stably on the brink of Armageddon. What will we do if an Islamist regime, which goes dewy-eyed at the mere mention of paradise, ever acquires long-range nuclear weaponry? If history is any guide, we will not be sure about where the offending warheads are or what their state of readiness is, and so we will be unable to rely on targeted conventional weapons to destroy them. In such a situation, the only thing likely to ensure our survival may be a nuclear first strike of our own. Needless to say, this would be an unthinkable crime, as it would kill tens of millions of innocent civilians in a single day. But it may be the only course of action available to us, given what Islamists, not all Muslims, what Islamists believe. How would such an unconscionable act of self-defense be perceived by the rest of the Muslim world? It would likely be seen as the first incursion of a genocidal crusade. The horrible irony here is that seeing that could make it so. This very perception could plunge us into a state of hot war with any Muslim state that had the capacity to pose a nuclear threat of its own. All of this is perfectly insane, of course. I have just described a plausible scenario in which much of the world's population could be annihilated on account of religious ideas that belong on the same shelf with Batman, the Philosopher's Stone, and unicorns. That it would be a horrible absurdity for so many of us to die for the sake of a myth does not mean, however, that it could not happen. Indeed, given the immunity to all reasonable intrusion that faith enjoys in our discourse, a catastrophe of this sort seems increasingly likely. We must come to terms with the possibility that men who are every bit as zealous to die as the 19 hijackers may one day get their hands on long-range nuclear weaponry. The Muslim world in particular must anticipate this possibility and find some way to prevent it. Given the steady proliferation of technology, it is safe to say that time is not on our side. So there we go. I thought I would do that for all to hear and see, so that we are clear that it's a thought experiment and an unconscionable act, etc. And it's like a worst case scenario. So hopefully anybody that ever speaks to Rashid, or anybody who makes the claim that this is what wants to happen, will actually go and read that or come back here as a source of reference.
Good one.
So there we go. As I say, I don't agree with everything that Harris says, but let's not take things out of context, which a number of his detractors do on a regular basis. Somebody like Reza Aslan, I mean, he makes some other Muslims that I know seem like they are the most honest guys out there. In other words, Reza Aslan, as a commentator, etc., is one of the most dishonest Muslims I've ever come across. Openly so, as if he doesn't think people will know what the truth is or go and look it up or whatever the case is. I do wonder how some people's brain operates. There we go. On to other topics.
Free will was handled many a time on the show, and we're not going to dedicate another one just to free will, because somebody was asking about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we've done that many times. Go and read Sam Harris's Free Will. There's many other arguments out there. I guess the short summary in 5 sentences is that it's very unlikely that we have libertarian free will, as most people presume, with or without a God for that matter. So go and read out Free Will by Sam Harris and others. Daniel Dennett's got some books as well. But determinism appears to be the overriding belief among most philosophers. 79% when I looked, somebody sent me very kindly a percentage breakdown on all the different...
Rob, we're not talking about it. We're not talking about it. We decided we're not going to talk about it.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about philosophers in general. So somebody was very kind to send me a document that noted they polled all the philosophers that obviously answered the poll, which was a fair number from what I could tell, on various topics, free will, all kinds of different things. And you get the percentage of people that believe, philosophers around the world that believe in whatever the topic is. And so that is of interest. If anybody is interested in that, let me know, send me an email. I would forward on the document just so you get an idea of where the general views in philosophy are on many different topics. Free will is just one of them, but there are many others.
Yeah. Objective morality. I want to discuss objective morality. There is no objective morality. Okay, we've discussed it. Next story.
not so quick. It's a bit more nuanced than that.
No, there is no such thing as objective morality. Finished.
Unless you presuppose certain axioms.
Yeah, well, you've got to presuppose anything in order to get morality off the ground. So, there's always a presupposition or two or 10, depending on your point of view, in order to, talk about anything moral. But I was listening to Dr. John Shook, who's an atheist philosopher, and he was talking about it and making a differentiation between epistemological objectivity in terms of morality and ontological objectivity. So that the theists think they've got an ontological case, which is, God is the objective ontological basis for morality. Whereas I take the Harris view, which is more a epistemological objective view. In other words, my view is that if every human on the planet agrees, then we can call that objective. Whereas the theists go, it doesn't matter whether humans agree or not. We've got a celestial dictator in the sky, and he posits that therefore our version of objective is better than yours, essentially.
But it still doesn't make it objective. It just makes it consensual. That's it.
Yeah, well, that's why you define, because yes, you could define that, but then the consensual among every human being would be objective for human beings, wouldn't it? Otherwise, how do you define objective?
Well, this is the point. There is no such thing as objective. It's not. You can't use objective in connection with morality.
I'm not convinced on that. Otherwise, what have you got? How else do you base your morals? I mean, obviously the theists.
Consensual. It's environmental. It's societal. It is cultural. It is consensual, and that's it.
So, what do you do though? How do you have a conversation with somebody that rejects that? So, somebody, I don't know, use an example of, I don't know. Think of some example where somebody disagrees with a moral point of yours. How do you convince them that they are incorrect and you're correct?
No, it's not about correct. There are certain things that I don't agree with, which I have to accept in our culture. Like, for example, if I don't like clothing, I cannot run around a city stark naked, even though I would like to. So there are things in our culture which I need to accept, which might not agree with my personal morality. So I just because I am part and parcel of the society and the culture that I'm living in, I need to accept these things. So that's the way that it works. So it's not objective. Is clothing objectively correct? No, it's not. So it's not about correct or not. It's just whether you accept it and you can adjust and adapt and be tolerant towards others.
Okay. And how do we establish though whether if you've got two competing views and they are like dichotomous views? So let's say one view is that women should be covered from head to toe and the eyes are sticking out. Another view is that they should be able to walk naked down the road or walk with a bikini on. And one says my view is moral, the other one says no, my view is moral. How do we go about establishing which of those is in fact moral?
We can't, obviously, because it's split down the middle.
Okay, so you think, okay, let me put it another way then. Do you think they are equally moral?
Of course, yes. But they're not objective. Neither one of them is.
Okay, so that's probably where we differ, because it sounds like you don't have a yardstick. So
no, I don't. Absolutely. I do not have a yardstick. My yardstick is society. My yardstick is culture. My yardstick is the environment that I live in.
Okay, but then you likely, so what would be your response then when a Muslim says, oh, well, stops in that case, they always use the same example, but so I'll give it to you and you already know it anyway. Well, then in that case, the Nazis were right because that's what society said at the time.
Society did not say that at the time. This is the big mistake that people are making. The people are assuming that the Nazis were the dominant, I don't know what you want to call them, assholes, and everybody fell in with them. No, most people were actually anti-Nazis.
Okay, I'm not aware of that. I would agree with you that obviously not every German was a Nazi. Clearly, I mean that's the case. I don't know what degree they were Nazis. I mean, when you see some of the Nuremberg rallies, they were in the millions, but that doesn't mean it was the entire Germany. But let's say it was those million people. So, are you saying that it goes by the size or the number of people who believe it? So, if a society, if 51% of society believes something,
Yeah, yeah. If the majority of the people decide that you should wear clothes when going out into the open, then that is what you do. I mean, I remember a
Really?
time that people said you need to wear a hat when you go outside. So like everybody went outside wearing a hat because it was the thing to do. If you did not wear a hat, there was something wrong. Now, these things fluctuate, these things change over time. But at that moment in time, it is the yardstick. It is not objective. It is the cultural measurement that is valid for that, I don't know, decade or 5 years or whatever you want to call it. That's the way that it works. There was a time when mini skirts were not seen as being in for women. Then there came a time when this changed, and all of a sudden mini skirts were in. So I remember this change. I remember when people said mini skirts are immoral because this was the yardstick for culture and for society at the time. And then it changed. So
But
is that objective? No.
No, but that just sounds like cultural relativism. It's like, okay, whatever my opinion is at the time, and that's, you know, that's from what I can see, that's indefensible. You can't use that as anything other than it's my personal opinion. And if that's the case, then it's like you're standing on quicksand. Then you might as well never talk about morals, because all you got is my view, or the other person's got my view. So how do you establish it?
Okay, fine. No, I agree with that. I agree that would be the consequence, and I agree with the consequence, and that's the way that it is. That is why I totally disagree with objectivity. There is no such thing as objectivity in morals.
In that case, then, in what way could you ever say that anything that a Muslim does is, quote, immoral or bad?
You can't. Because this is exactly the point that I'm making. If Muhammad said that raping captive women is good and okay, and you should enjoy your orgasm, then that is the way that it is. But you need to accept it. You need to be honest enough and say that is the way that it was. Today we don't do that anymore because it's relative to the time that this happened. This is why Muhammad marrying a 6-year-old for me is not a big deal. But if Muslims hear it today, they think they need to protect Muhammad because he is claimed to be a role model for today, and then it doesn't work. So Muhammad marrying a 6-year-old 1,000 years ago, where's the problem? I don't see a problem there. That is the way it was handled in those days. It is relative.
No, but okay, but stops. There's a difference between it being handled in those days, and that's what people doing, and us saying that it's wrong today, even back then. So using some kind of a moral view today, we can say that anything that happened in the past like that is wrong and was wrong at that time. Were we able to go back in a time machine, we would say that it's wrong. We wouldn't go back in a time machine and go, but you know what, this is okay because we're living in the 7th century. Surely you're not arguing for that.
That's what I'm arguing for. I cannot apply today's moral standards to a society 1,000 years ago.
Okay. Then to me, it seems like you have no basis ever to make a judgment call of anything that's wrong against anybody else.
Correct.
Okay, but you do that all the time, though. So now
No. Of course I do, because I have very strong morals, but this is based in the society that I live in today. But I will not go and say it is totally wrong what somebody did 1,000 years ago, because in that environment, it was correct. It is wrong to then go and say it is still correct today, because it is not.
Okay, so for me, I think there's an equivocation there going on with the whatever happened in those times happened in those times. We can't argue that it happened. But if we were today to use our knowledge and our moral system today and time warp back there, we would say that was wrong. We'd go there and say, hey, Muhammad, this was wrong. Here's all the reasons why this is wrong.
Okay, but I can't condemn it today because it happened in those days. If I were to go back 1,000 years, I would not be able to go and convince people that marrying a 6-year-old is wrong, because this was the way that it was handled in that society within that tribe. I mean, how can I go and apply my moral standards of today to a society 1,000 years ago? I can't do that.
Well, I guess you are. Here's what I would say then. You are consistent with your subjective version of morals. I just think that you know, and we know each other quite well. I just think that position is indefensible. And I would love to send you the moral landscape, and you can give me an objection against it. Read it and tell me whether you've got a strong objection. If so, what that objection is.
Yeah, but if you know me a little bit, you know that I don't care what other people say.
No, I
I'm
know.
in my own mind,
Sure, sure.
and this is the way that I feel that I cannot apply my standards today to a society 1,000 years ago. When the Mayas were sacrificing human beings, they were doing it for a reason which today we know is stupid, which today we know is wrong. But in those days, how can I apply my moral standards of today to a society 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 years ago? I cannot do that.
Well, that's true if you believe that everything's relative, which I obviously do not agree with. So I could go back and I could say that Muhammad doing what he did was wrong, even in those days. He just either didn't know it or didn't care, whatever the case is. The Mayans sacrificing people was wrong, whether they knew it or didn't know it. It's wrong, and it would always have been wrong. It's not a case of it was right in those days and it's wrong today. I mean, so yeah, maybe we should do more of a show on this or something, because otherwise we could take up time. But it seems like you and I have got fundamentally different views on this, and so.
But you think that we can go today and criticize and condemn what happened 1,000 years ago?
Of course. There's a difference, however, like I want to make clear here. There's a difference between condemning what happened in the past because we know better today and accepting that that's what they did in the past. I accept that's what they did. I can't not accept it.
Okay. Yeah,
I can't go and change history. But like I say, if I could time warp back with the knowledge that I have today to Muhammad and look at him in the face, I'd say, hey, Muhammad, this is wrong and here's the reasons. You should not be doing this. I don't care that it's the 7th century. I'm telling you that it's wrong and here's the reasons.
No, that's fine. I agree with that. I agree with that on a personal level, but I cannot go and expect society to change, at the drop of a dime and say, well, okay, now stops or rob, somebody has come from the future and said it's wrong, so now we need to change everything.
Well, you would if you had good reasons and evidence, surely. If I could present you with enough good reasons and evidence, then you would do that if you were a rational person and you cared about reasons and evidence.
Yeah, but hang on. What is the reason, or what is the good reason to wear clothing when you are going swimming, for example?
How's that? I'm not sure, because you've gone off on a different point there. I'm thinking about Muhammad and
morality dictates that when we go swimming, we need to go and wear bikinis and funny costumes that if we go swimming. Is there a good reason to do that? No. This is just morality. This is just an arbitrary function that we have decided, like wearing a tie. What is the purpose of wearing a tie? This is why today now...
This is a dress code. This isn't a moral issue per se.
It is. It is. Dress code is a moral issue. That's why what I said with the miniskirt. Suddenly it was okay to wear a miniskirt. But even today, if you go to a public beach, you are sort of required to wear some sort of clothing to go swimming. What the hell for?
Yeah, but like you say, that's a societal norm that's come up. But
now we're talking about words. This is
well, we could still come up and say, is it moral to be forced to wear clothes or not?
Well, this is the point. A lot of people will say that it is immoral not to wear clothes when you go swimming.
Okay, and I would ask them, on what basis do you claim that it's immoral? And now I want to hear what their reasons are.
There you go. And that's exactly the approach that we need. So if I go to a nudist beach, for example, why would somebody question my morality for going to a nudist beach? And that is exactly where we 100% agree again, except that if we go back 1,000 years and we apply our moral standards, I don't think that is possible unless we go to some very simple issues where we say, okay, you're not supposed to kill, you're not supposed to keep slaves, you're not supposed to rape, those things are bad. No, don't do that, it's bad. Okay, cool. But the other things where it's a little bit more nuanced, you can't do that.
Okay, so remember for me anyway, when we talk about morals, we're talking about it from a let's have a conversation. I don't care on the practical side in the following sense that I don't care whether somebody agrees or not. So if we are talking morals, let's say I went back to the 7th century and I'm talking directly to Muhammad and I'm saying, hey, Muhammad, my name's Rob. Hey, how are you doing? Listen, you've married Aisha at 6 and you want to have sex at 9, and that's immoral. I am presupposing, and yes, you could argue that that's not the case, but I'm presupposing that whenever we're talking about this, we're talking about people who can rationally make decisions, who can understand arguments. Now, of course, you could always say, oh, well, they can't understand that. But whenever we talk about morals, we presuppose that the people we're talking to can, in fact, have a rational conversation and they would be persuaded by good reasons and evidence. And so But so I wouldn't go down the line or have an argument with somebody who goes, no, I don't care about reasons or evidence. Whatever happened has happened, and it's always moral. So that person would be then irrational or unreasonable. Then I can't have that conversation. So
Correct.
I guess when we talk about morals, we're also talking about, we are trusting that if we were to go back, Muhammad go, oh, wow, Rob, I never thought of that. I didn't know that. You've got a good point. I'm not going to do that. That's the sort of person.
Go back 50 years to South Africa. Come on.
Yeah.
Go there and go and talk to the people and say, listen, apartheid is wrong. Okay.
Well, of course I would say that.
Exactly. This is what we did. I mean, I remember going to the people and saying, listen, this is bloody wrong. You can't do that. Give people a chance, and don't go and by pigmentation of the skin, but by the intelligence quotient of the brain or something. Take whatever you want, but not the pigmentation of the skin. Okay. And this, I think, is morally acceptable. And there I can go to people and say, objectively, you are wrong because of the reasons A, B, C, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I can condemn it. Absolutely, I agree with you. But with certain other cases, because there are some things which are so obviously wrong. Like marrying a 6-year-old is obviously wrong. Absolutely. So I would definitely go for the reasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 15 reasons why marrying a 6-year-old is wrong. And therefore, I would expect you to change that. And lo and behold, they might even listen. Absolutely. But there's other things where I can say, I don't know. I do not know if it is correct to apply my moral standards of the 21st century to somebody in the 7th.
Yeah, but that's because you haven't got a yardstick, whereas I've got a yardstick. So I go, hey, Muhammad, according to my yardstick,
what is your yardstick?
And here's the arguments as to why my yardstick is a good one to use. If you agree, then you must accept that it's wrong. Now, you don't have that, and so it's difficult for you.
What is your yardstick?
So the well-being of conscious creatures is my yardstick, and the scientific method is a methodology that can help us. And we start with the worst possible misery for everybody, and we work our way up from there. And one thing that I haven't said before that I'd add in is that there could be multiple peaks. We could have multiple, so different cultures could have different views on something. And if we were able to ascertain through scientific means, we could find out that, in fact, 2 different cultures have got equally good ways of thriving, even though they may be different to each other. Okay. So that, in a nutshell, is the view. So if you
then we have the same yardstick.
Say again?
Then we have the same yardstick.
Yeah, but do you agree that in principle, science, which is the investigation of the natural world, could in principle give us every answer we could? We can't have the answer.
Absolutely.
So as we progress in science, we could then say, hey, because Harris argues that facts in fact reduce down to values. And if that's the case, and if you accept that, then Hume's is-or distinction falls away. So if you accept that it's a fact, for example, that eating sugar is bad for you, this is an objective fact, that eating sugar will kill you, will rot your body. Now, you could say, well, I don't care about that. But if in fact sugar does rot your body, and what we want is physical health, then we can say that sugar is objectively bad for you. End of story. There's nobody who come and say, do you know what? I don't care about health. I think that health is eating as much sugar as possible and dying early in pain. And we go, okay, you're not talking about health. So you're not somebody who we can have a rational discussion about with health. And therefore, you are not part of this conversation. But anybody that accepts that physical health is about long life, living well, healthily, etc., and we can show them that the breakdown of refined sugar, what it does to the body, then they would have to, whether they like sugar products or not, they'd have to go, do you know what? Yes, I agree. Refined sugar is bad for you if you want to live a long life. If you want to die quickly or painfully or be in the NHS or in hospital, then eating it is a good thing. But if you don't, and so I think there's a strong case to argue that in principle, if once we know enough about whatever the topic is, you can then argue that it's good or bad for somebody. And anybody who's rational that accepts the premises has to accept the conclusion.
Okay, that's cool. Now to bring it back to Islam, what we're talking about is how does this approach that we have established now, which I totally agree with, which is based on facts, which is based on reality, which is based on what it is that we have today, then based on the knowledge that we have today, based on the well-being of people, how does that now apply to the morality that we encounter in Islam? There's
Give me an
nothing
example.
there. Well, it doesn't matter what you take from within Islam, whether you take the any one of the pillars, if you take any kind of the hadiths, if you take any kind of the moral suppositions that you find in Islam, I mean, there's like 2 or 3 things that I would agree with. The rest is then superfluous. It doesn't apply. What can you gain from Islam?
Well, I agree. And that's the point, that's the challenge that Hitchens put out, and I've put out as well to other people, based basically on Hitchens' thing. If you believe that religion is in some way has some moral high ground, then you need to answer the following challenge, which I've put out before, and but for the viewers, if you're a theist, if you're somebody who believes in God and has a particular view, here's the challenge. You need to present to me or to a non-believer any act that you could say is moral, either by saying it or doing it, that I, as a non-believer, could not do because I don't believe in God. So, for example, somebody might say, hey, Rob, do you know what? I think it's moral to pray. And as a non-believer, I don't believe in prayer. Therefore, obviously, I couldn't pray. However, I would say to somebody that it is immoral to pray. What are you praying for? You're praying for forgiveness from an all-powerful God. So praying is immoral. If praying is like a meditation, that's a different story. But most people don't think of it as that. So they are praying for something, or they're praying for forgiveness. And that to me is an immoral act. And so for me, that wouldn't count. But I'm giving you an example. So you as a theist would have to come along and say, hey, Rob, I could say this or I could do this because I'm a theist, because I believe in God. It allows me to do X or Y, whatever that is. And Rob, you can't do that. Therefore, I've got the moral high ground. If you cannot do that, you don't have the moral high ground. In other words, like Stops says, your religion from a moral point of view has got no value to us at all. If we can do everything you can do, then, and you are just making the extra assumption that there's a celestial dictator, then you have got no leg to stand on. So present us something that we would agree is moral, that we cannot do, and only you could do as a theist. Now you've got an argument that I will pay very close attention to.
And now Marshall is making an excellent point here. You are reading the Quran with your current moral standard and trying to apply them. Exactly. That is the point. And this is what Rob is just, like from Hitchens and from Harris. This is exactly the point. We read the Quran today and look at the claim that the Quran in its literal reading is valid today. And that's why Islam is dying, because it doesn't work.
As we've said before, if the claim was that the book was sent down for people of the time to make them slightly less brutal than before Muhammad came along, and it was specifically put together and so forth for people of the 7th century, we wouldn't be having 90% of these discussions. But the claim that it is a book of all time for all people, and it's as much of value today as it was in the 7th century, I mean, that's the claim that's just completely vanishes. It's completely vacuous. All you have to do is look at the Quran, read it. So what you get now is apologists trying to give different, quote, interpretations for what was obviously believed to be literal in those days, and trying to spin it and go, no. Some of the scholars say this, some of them say that, some of them, so no, slavery wasn't really, nowhere was it condemned, but actually the slaves were treated quite well. So, you guys don't really know what you're talking about slavery. It was actually quite nice.
Because the point now that you need to make is, number one, can I learn something positive from the Quran? Can I learn something that I don't already know? Can I learn something that I don't already apply? No. But on the other hand, is there something in there that is negative? And there we're seeing absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you've got nothing to add, nothing of value to add that we haven't already surpassed, improved upon, or whatever the case is, then you don't have a moral leg to stand on. Your only moral leg, which is not a good one at all, which crumbles when you examine it, is that you've got an ontological objective morality. But when you look into that, you find that in fact that's not the case anyway. So really, religious people don't have anything moral to say, and what they do say is moral is something that secular society says is moral, and we've got good reasons to, and it's not pointing in a 1400-year-old book in most cases, if not every case.
Yeah, now Marshall is very quiet. If you want to understand the Quran, you need a 7th century mentality. I bet Stopspamming would agree with me on this one. Absolutely. And this is the whole point, because the Quran is intended for the mentality of a 7th century camel herder. This is exactly what we're talking about. And this is why you cannot claim that the Quran is valid today. That's exactly the point. So, Marshall, show me something that I can learn from the Quran that I don't already know.
Yeah, something that's moral, because you can learn something, but is it of any value that we can use today?
What can I learn from the Quran? What? There is nothing in the Quran that is verifiably true. That nothing can be verified, and in reality, there's nothing. So, what can I learn from the Quran? Nothing.
Yes, either whatever the Quran said that we either knew before that, or if we didn't
you're a
know.
donut.
What's that?
Rob is a donut. This is so funny.
Who's that? Oh, another Muslim fan, no doubt. But none of them want to come on here and have a discussion, of course.
You're talking about donuts now. Anyone have donuts?
Not for me, thanks very much. So this moral argument sounds good until you start to look into it a lot more deeply. Then, of course, from a theist point of view, it falls away. What can you learn from an atheist? You can learn, number one, critical thinking there, Moshath. In other words, not believing things without good reasons and evidence. And my claim is that every single theist has at some point abandoned their critical thinking, especially if they've looked into it, and believing in a supernatural deity for which there is not good reasons or evidence. And every time I hear supposed arguments, they're tired, old-fashioned ones that have either got serious problems or have been refuted. And so, number one, you could learn critical thinking. The other thing you could learn from atheists.
But look at what Marshall is offering. I'll show you something that is moral from the Quran. Being away from drugs. Does the Quran mention drugs? No. Stay pure. What is pure? How can I learn to be pure? Marshall, come on. Use both brain cells simultaneously.
I don't know what pure is. Well, we know using drugs, and we've probably known that for decades and centuries. There's a lot of confusion here when we talk about morals, because some people do things, therefore other people who are watching that goes, oh, well, you as a society don't condemn, or you don't know that it's wrong. The difference is we as a society, some of us anyway, recognize that taking drugs is not a moral act, in the sense that if you care about your health, you wouldn't take drugs. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people who don't know about morals, haven't studied, don't know what they're talking about, and take drugs because they want to feel good.
What is drugs?
I don't know. You have to ask somebody.
This is the point, because is a headache tablet a drug? Absolutely. And is cannabis a drug? Yes. Is it bad for you? No. So what are you talking about? Is heroin or ecstasy bad for you? Yes. So those are drugs. So where is the limit, and what exactly are we talking about?
I would say cannabis could be bad, especially if you're very young, like in the age of 13.
Okay, that's very specific, but I'm talking about a 33-year-old.
I don't. No.
Okay, Marshall. So you are saying there is literally nothing you can learn from the Quran. That is what I'm saying. No way, bro. Don't tell me that's what you... What? I cannot read when they're typing this in capitals. Actually, the Quran is the best guidance. Okay, what is the guidance in the Quran? There is no guidance in the Quran. What is the value of running around a black stone 7 times in a counterclockwise direction? There is no morality in that. So what can I learn from that? Show me something that I can learn from the Quran. Cannabis is not chemically addictive. That's bullshit. And Islam causes brain malfunction. Yeah, not cannabis.
Yes, hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 people who are joining us. I did give Harry the link, but he's not coming on. A couple of other people here. We'll have somebody on who's I think he's an agnostic atheist, fairly smart guy called Corey, so he may be joining us shortly. And then there's somebody here who's got a different name here on the chat and in Facebook, so hopefully they'll join. Rob, can you talk about the video featuring you on Muhammad Hijab's channel where you mentioned something incorrectly about evolution? Well, provide us a link or tell me what you're talking about. Rob, have you seen your video on Facebook with over 500,000 views? No, not necessarily. Which one? again, you need to provide a link or tell me what to look for, whatever the case is.
And if I don't know the science, well, then teach me.
Yeah, if I've said something wrong, no problem. I can learn and get it right. That's not a problem. I have no problem with that. It's on Facebook. Yeah, well, Facebook's a big place. Rafi. I can't send links here. Okay, I'll make you a moderator so that you can. There you go, Rafi. You're now a moderator. You can send links. So yeah, obviously the moral. I think, and when I listen to people, when they're thinking clearly, that's probably one of the bigger reasons why people believe in a God, because of the moral. Oh, well, if there wasn't a God, then how would we know what's right and wrong? It's not that there's overwhelming evidence. I mean, when you go down to Speaker's Corner, they've learned the arguments, and so that's what they try and throw at you. But that's not the reason for most people as to why they became, Muslim. Either they were cultural or there was some reason. Although one or two people have said, I'm not sure that it's true though. Oh, do you know what? The reason I became Muslim is because I looked around. I couldn't understand how this entire wonderful world got here. And in my mind, it had to have been a creator. And that gets you to Islam. There's more to it than that, clearly. So that might have got you to a creator of some kind. Now, how do you decide which creator it is? And of course, we don't really hear that. Somebody in the chat, critical thinking is a myth. You tend to learn off other people. Of course, you learn facts off other people, Mo, but what you do learn, or what you can start doing, is exercising a critical thinking and not accepting claims where the evidence and the reasons don't scale with the nature of the claim. And as you learn to do this, it's like a muscle. You start to be a lot more cautious of accepting extraordinary or supernatural claims. And so, no, critical thinking is not a myth. Don't confuse what you learn of other people through experience with learning how to think critically. It is a skill set that you can learn. Anybody can do it. And it's different to having experiences. Because very intelligent people can make mistakes and are not critical thinkers. So just because you're intelligent doesn't necessarily mean, when I say intelligent, I'm talking about educated normally. Just because you're educated doesn't automatically mean you're a critical thinker. However, it does seem to be the case that there is a correlation between level of education and non-belief. And I've put those things on here a couple of times already. Have you posted the link there, Raf? Oh, there it is. There you go. You've posted a link, have you? Or something or other.
Critical thinking is more, it's an approach. It's not a fact or something. It's not a way of, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's an approach how you view things.
Yeah, so it's like a methodology almost that you can learn.
We went into this, and I gave some very, very good guidance. I gave you 10 points, how you can go and approach this, how you can go and do a sanity check. It's a checklist, 10 points. Just go and do the baloney, the baloney detection kit. That's what it is. And the baloney detection kit by Michael Shermer gives you everything that you need to know how to apply critical thinking to anything. And it's not limited to religion. I think it's applicable to everything.
Yeah, so I wonder if you could find that again, Stops. That was brilliant. Obviously, that was many shows ago, and people today wouldn't necessarily remember that. But that 10-step system was a very useful one. Again, it's something that people can learn, they can start to implement, and it's not a myth, and you don't need to learn that from somebody else. I don't know if you saw the link. There's apparently Sabur and my video has gone viral in some other language there. Isn't very helpful. So while you're doing that, hey Marshall, Ayub, how are you? How are you doing? Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking to. I think Stops is busy looking.
Well, I'm just looking for the 10 points. I found the 10 points, but now I don't know how to put them into my avatar. Sorry, say again. I wasn't listening. I'm sorry. Say again. Nothing. Not little, nothing. I'm very serious. I'm dead serious. Absolutely, yeah. Well, show me that I'm wrong. No. Okay, you didn't understand what I said. I said, teach me. I said, teach me something that I don't already know. That's not what I said. It doesn't teach me anything that I don't already know. And we already know that the Quran also says that it is forbidden to treat your parents well. So the Quran itself can't make up its own mind. And there is nothing in the Quran that it can teach me that I don't already know. That is my claim.
It, and even if it's in the Quran, and still you can call it moral, right?
I would say,
doing different things. What do I call it? Moral?
Can you hear him now? Hopefully people can hear you now. Can you hear Marshall? Just speak now, because sorry, you were speaking to us. We could hear you, but nobody on the broadcast could hear you. So hopefully people can hear you now.
No. What I don't understand is, like, Stop is trying to say that because he knows all the things that are in the Quran, therefore that makes all what's in the Quran immoral. That's what he's trying to say.
No, what I'm trying to say is there is nothing in the Quran that teaches me anything moral.
Okay, do
and
you
I've just told you. Now,
yeah, but Marshall,
the whole of the Quran is a guidance. It's all about how you live your life according to that book.
Marshall, do you understand what Stops actually said? He said there's nothing that the Quran can teach him. In other words, there's nothing in the Quran that he doesn't already know to be moral or immoral.
No, you're both talking at the same time now.
Okay, so Marshall, listen here. If I summarize, if I hopefully I've got it accurate. If I summarize,
Rob, I get what he's saying. I get it.
No, you don't, because your response tells me you don't get what he's saying.
He's saying that when he read the Quran, he found literally nothing that is moral to him or something that is good to him, right?
What he said was, when he read the Quran, there was nothing that he could learn from the Quran that he didn't already know. And it wasn't, the Quran was not the source of his learning this. And so the Quran doesn't add any value to our current society.
So if I'm reading a book and I already know what's in that book, can I say that what's in that book is actually immoral? I don't have the right to say it.
Your analogy is all over the show. I'm not. It doesn't even make sense to me. I'm struggling to understand your analogy.
No, I'm saying if you know something, that does not make it immoral. Even if you know it or not, that does not matter. That's what I'm saying.
Like what? Give me an example, because you're talking esoterically. That doesn't mean much.
So if I'm reading a book, right, and that book says, being good, you have to be good to your parents, and I already know that I have to be good to my parents. I don't need a book to tell me that, but I still have to confess that what that book is saying is actually immoral to me. And
yes, but you haven't learned it from
people.
Yes, but you haven't learned it from the book. That is the point. You already knew.
But it doesn't matter, though.
Parents is a moral act. So the book saying the book is not giving you any value. You're not learning anything. You're not being taught anything by the book.
No. Rob, listen. What I'm saying, like, I don't need. If I knew what's in that book, I cannot make the claim or the statement that what's in that book or the guidance of that book is actually immoral. It doesn't make sense to say that.
But that's not what he's saying.
Who makes that? Who says that? Who makes?
You knew what's in the Quran, therefore the Quran cannot teach you anything that is moral. That's exactly what you just said.
And
I think you're wrong.
Show me something that I can learn from the Quran.
Bro, I've just said to you, because you knew you don't need a book to tell you to be good to the people. You don't need a book to tell you to be good to your parents.
Exactly.
But that still does not make it immoral. But you have to confess that what the book is teaching is actually far more moral.
Okay, Marshall, let me just repeat what I said. Number one, I made two statements. Number one, there is nothing in the Quran that I can learn about morality from the Quran that I don't already know. My second statement is, on the other hand, there are lots of things that I can learn from the Quran that are immoral.
Right.
Okay, so do you understand now that Stops already knew it? He wasn't saying that be good to your parents is immoral. He said he already knew that being good to your parents was a moral act. So the Quran didn't add any value. He never said that it was immoral.
Right.
I mean, that would be a silly thing to say. If you already know something's moral and a book tells you it's moral, you're not suddenly going to say to the book, hey, well, because the book said it, it's immoral. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I get what he's saying though, but for
Okay.
me, like, if I knew,
I don't think you do.
no, but listen, but if I knew what's in a particular book, for example, a book tells me to help people, the people who are in need, I need to help them, and I read that book and I found exactly what it says, right? I can say that I already know that it's actually moral for me, but I cannot make the statement that what that book is, what the book is actually teaching is cannot be moral to anyone else, because that's a guidance.
Okay, but he's never said that either. He said there's nothing the book can teach him.
Right, I get that,
So
but
could there be
still,
somebody
but
out
still,
there
but hold on,
who-
but the question is,
Could
but
there,
still,
Marshall, could there be somebody out there who, for some unknown, incredible, inexplicable reason, doesn't know that being good to your parents is moral or helping people is moral, and they read in their Quran and go, oh, wow, I didn't know this. Now I've
No,
learned
come
something.
on.
Maybe there is somebody out there on planet Earth.
Nah, I
But
would
so
say
what?
most of people they know it, but what I'm saying, like, even if you knew it and you read the book, you still have to confess that what the book is teaching is actually moral, because that's what the
But
book
it's
is all
not
about.
teaching. The point is, it's not teaching. It's telling me something I already know. That's not teaching me something. Well, nobody's denying that it's a moral act. What we are saying is that we didn't learn it from the Quran, and therefore, because the Quran or any other book says something, doesn't mean that it's teaching you something. It's telling you something you already know, which is what? That's not teaching you, is it? Teaching you is giving you information that you didn't have before.
Marshall,
Right.
do you know what a Barnum statement is?
Right.
No, tell him, Stops.
What the Quran is doing basically is just confirming a couple of things which are basically normal for any human being. A normal human being does not go around and kill other people. So the Quran telling me don't kill other people is not a revelation. It is confirming something we already know. Now, Barnum statements are statements which are generally accepted. So if I tell you, for example, you are somebody who is caring towards others, you are somebody that is able to visualize yourself in a position where you can aid others without going too deep into this, without having it affect you, but at the same time providing positive feedback to others. These are Barnum statements. These are things that everybody will say, yes, that's exactly me. This is being used in astrology a lot. So what you are being told in the Quran are things which everybody already agrees on. That you don't kill somebody, you treat your parents well, you do. So those things are just mere confirmation. They're not teaching me anything. Those are just statements which are there to confirm that what you already know is the good and correct thing, which is beneficial for mankind. Cool. And this is what I'm saying. It is not something revealing, or it's not a revelation that something in the book tells me you shouldn't go around knifing people to death at random. So this is something that I already know. So the Quran is not teaching me anything. But then on the other hand, it tells me I can keep sex slaves where the women can even be married and I can go and do whatever I want with them. That is negative. And that is what you see in the Quran. It's in 424. Everybody knows it. You can read it up for yourself. There it is. But that is negative, and that's something that I can learn from the Quran, because this is not normal today that somebody keeps sex slaves.
Yes, in other words, you're learning, well, what you are picking up from the Quran is something where it's in error, in a sense. It's saying it's good, and we know that that's not the case. Whereas when it's saying something that is already good, we already knew that was the case. Yep, cool. So let's move on. So hopefully that's cleared it up for you, Marshall, because it sounded like there was a little bit of confusion, but hopefully we've cleared that up for you, I hope, anyway.
I love it. Is it wrong to go around knifing people?
Now, where it would be here, so here's something. So if, for example, the Quran or another book said to us, it is moral in time, you humans will learn how to replicate cells, and you'll be able to create, what is it? You'd be able to replicate and then create antidotes and things that can help people from
the
the medical
basic
point of view, from human DNA, from human cells, and it's moral to do so.
Exactly.
That would have been gone, holy crap, we wouldn't have known that until 10 years ago. And we've gone, wow, how did they know that? That would have been like a moral act. So something that we didn't already know. Rob, the Quran says you should cover your genitals. Do you accept that? Sometimes it's not prescriptive, in other words, Sharif. In other words, no. Do I accept that as a moral act? Generally speaking, no, not necessarily.
Do I have to cover my genitals?
No, the question was here. Rob, the Quran says that you should cover your genitals. Do you accept that? No, I don't. No, I don't accept that. Give me a moral reason why we should cover our genitals in every circumstance. There may be times, and we could always talk about that, but normally when you're talking about a moral act, it's prescriptive. In other words, it says that you must do this for virtually all times. You may find a rare example, but most of the time when you're talking prescriptive morals or ethics, it's something that we should almost never do. Like murder, we should never murder somebody. You can take somebody's life, but that would not be murder. That would be for another reason. And so tell me why in all circumstances. In other words, present me with an argument as to why we should cover our genitals in all cases. I'm open to it. Go ahead. Maybe you can convince me. What about on a nudist beach? What about when you're walking out in a hot desert or whatever? Or what about when you're in a nudist colony? Although maybe that's immoral from some people's point of view. I'll wait for your response. But this is what will happen, of course. But even with my moral system, I don't claim that there aren't hard questions that are very difficult to answer, like the trolley problem or other questions that are genuinely not easy. And on paper, they equate to the same thing. But as Harris has pointed out, sometimes you've got to take into account our human nature, our human fallibility. And it could be that pushing a guy off a bridge is in fact more immoral than flipping a switch, even though the net result is exactly the same. And that's something that we need to take into account because from a philosophical point of view, there's no difference. But then we've got to take into account that we are human creatures, and the simple act of pushing somebody as opposed to pushing a lever, there is an inherent moral difference that we can't just account for, mathematically. So we've got to take more into account in order to make that claim. So there are genuinely hard problems and those hard problems, by the way, don't get any easier because you're a theist. I mean, you can claim they do, but good luck with that. So cool. Somebody's asking me something here. I'll have to look back. So is it a moral act that you do not accept? Or to cover your genitals at all times? No, it's not a moral act that you should cover it at all times. There, people have said in a sauna. I mean, there's plenty of times where not covering yourself is entirely fine. And in fact, by the way, that's how we come into this world naturally anyway. And we are socially conditioned to cover ourselves with clothing. Why? Most notably from a religious point of view, because if you go and look at other tribes, they walk around naked and they have no problem with it. It's only us in the West that the so-called celestial dictator has somehow told us, and I don't even know where it is in any book anyway, but maybe it is in a book somewhere, that covering yourself is the moral thing to do. And why? Give me a good reason why. You cannot walk around naked. And yes, I understand you can't walk around naked in society. Man, there's a lot of confusion. My word. Sharif, there's a difference between what we do in London when we talk about a moral act as a general rule. What we do in London or Doha or the Antarctic will be different based on different cultures. When we talk about a moral or ethical position, we are not talking about where it is in a particular place in the world. We're talking about it as a general point to talk about. So the question is not whether it's okay in London, but whether it's always wrong to cover your genitals. And if we go and look at other tribes, etc., no, they walk around naked. They
And the
totally
other
fine
thing
with
is, in the Quran, what does it actually say? It says to cover your aura. It says to cover your ornaments. It doesn't tell you what to cover and in what way to cover it. So don't talk to me about this. This is old men interpreting an old book, trying to tell the modern people today on how to get dressed. That's stupid.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so, you know, that's why following a book, you know, that's supposed to be absolute is very problematic, especially on.
I think Batman is a troll.
Yeah, I would imagine so too. Atheists patting each other on the back. Well, why don't you come on and set us straight, Batty, man? We're fine. If you can present good reasons and evidence, we'll be compelled, whether we like it or not, to change our minds. Are you wanting to come on and present something that's going to overwhelm us and change our minds? Or are you just going to type a few things in there? I think I know the answer. Anyway. But some of the other guests that have asked for the chat, for the link, haven't seemingly either responded or wanted to come in. So we're still waiting to see if anybody actually wants to join us. But Stops, you had some other points. Obviously, the moral argument we could talk about till the cows come home, because, of course, you know, the theists will always ask, what about this situation? What about that one? And again, I believe, and you know, some of my atheist friends disagree, and that's fine. We can have that disagreement. I believe I've got a moral or ethical system that will allow me to determine whether something is right or wrong. I claim for you theists, unless you've got a different version of divine command theory, you don't have a moral system. You have a set of commands that tells you what's right and wrong. And if I present you with a case that does not fall within your book or your moral commands, you now have to use some other method to determine whether something is right or wrong. How do you do that? So there it is. Sharif and all other theists watching, how can you tell me whether human cloning is a moral or immoral act? And if you do, on what basis are you making that claim? Because there's nothing in the Quran or the Bible about human cloning. So cloning one human being to another, using that DNA to clone another human being, or stem cell research, which is taking the cells from a blastocyst, which is a small, what do they call it? Fusion of the male egg and the
No. It's already after division.
Oh, is it after division? Okay.
You have the zygote, which is the first cell, and then the blastocyst is after division.
Okay, but that some people claim is already like a living being, so to speak.
I cannot put a screenshot up. Why is that?
Who? You?
Moi. Me and myself.
No, I don't know why can't you screen share?
No, if I click on this green thing, it does absolutely zilch.
Good. I'm pretty sure I'm not preventing you.
But then I'm using a Chinese browser because...
Oh.
You're not going to show your genitals now, I hope.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. I'm just looking in the chat here to see if there's anything that's... You claim there's no command about punishment on adultery.
I'm going to put the 10 questions in here then, because I can't screen share.
Okay, put it in there, and I'll just put your I'll put your avatar up as the main avatar that stays locked in position so people can read it. So the topic was talking about the assault on Muslims in Myanmar, and to talk about the moral issue. So there you go. I can copy and paste those, and I can share them as a link for people to view. So let me just do that quickly. So you guys speak for a moment. I'm just going to... Rob, if you were born 1,000 years ago, would you have been a happy Viking going around killing people? Well, probably if I was born... Well, your question is kind of it's not an accurate question, so be more specific. In other words, if I was born with the morality and the knowledge I have today, or if I was born in that time where I was a lot more ignorant on things, which one? So be more specific about your claim. If I was born 1,000 years ago with what the knowledge I have today, would I have been happy going around killing? Or if I was born as a Viking 1,000 years ago with the knowledge of what Vikings were, then I probably would have been fine going around killing, because I didn't have an evolved system of morality. And I'm not sure if Vikings just went around killing everybody anyway.
Only Christian monks.
Normally, they, like most other societies, they went around conquering people. and they probably thought that was moral. Right, so let me...
And yes, evolution is racist because it says survival of the fittest, and it talks about all sorts of things which people don't understand. So this is the typical Sabur thing. He doesn't understand anything, but he says it loudly.
Yes, as long as you say it loudly, quite a few obscure people, then, you pull the wool over many, many people's eyes. So present this to everybody. So here are the 10 steps, the 10 questions, courtesy of Stops from Michael Sherman. This is how to think and to analyze things critically. Number 1, how reliable is the source of the claim? Is it a book of 1400 years ago, or is it well-attested scientific evidence, for example? Does the source make similar claims? So what do they mean by the source there? What, the book or scientists, or what do they mean there?
Where you are reading this, like, for example, the Bible, the Quran, or whatever you're reading.
Does the source make similar claims? Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose somebody could misquote things, but that seems like...
It's if you have a statement which says that a piece of steak will revive a corpse, okay? How do you now ascertain whether this is true or whether this is just stupidity? This is the way that it works.
Yeah, I understand that, but question 2 there seems superfluous unless I'm missing something. Does the source
make similar claims? In other words, are there other things in there which sound equally
okay, sorry, I misread it. I understand what you're saying. Sorry. Yeah, I understand now what you mean. Yeah. So are there other claims similar to the one that's being made, as opposed to, does the source make the claim that is similar to what the person is making? Obviously, yeah, I understand. Number 3, have the claims been verified by somebody else? Yes, that's obviously incredibly important, because I can never deny anybody's personal experience. But what I can be very critical of or skeptical of is that their experience is in fact, quote, objective truth. In other words, that their experience is in fact true or would be true for other people. A lot of people said they've spoken to God or whatever. The question is always, how do you know it's not your imagination? How do you know you weren't dreaming? How do you know it's not God, etc.? And you've got to go outside of yourself in order to show that. You cannot give me information inside yourself as if that's verification for what you already believe. So can somebody else verify it? Yeah, that's a key one. Does this fit with the way the world works? Yes, that would be another good reason. So if the moon was split in 2, we know of no such thing of a planet being split in half and then reassembling itself in such a way as to never look like it's ever been split. So again, that would be a claim, or a global flood, or even a local flood to the height of Mount Ararat. We're not aware of that anywhere on planet Earth. So that would be a unique or extraordinary claim that doesn't fit with the way the world works as we currently understand it. Now, is it impossible? No, but are we reasonable to believe that without any good reasons or evidence? No, not because a book says so. Has anyone tried to disprove the claim? Yes, this is key, isn't it? And the opposite oftentimes of what theists do, because their whole mentality is not to try and disprove something, but to try and give it more credence. In other words, to try and validate it instead of falsify it. That's key. And scientists obviously do that a lot, try to disprove each other. So a key one there. If you're not trying to disprove your theistic book and all your theistic claims, you are not thinking critically. Number 6, where does the preponderance of evidence point? Yeah. And oftentimes, if it's a naturalistic claim, which most of these are, in fact, all of them apart from the existence of a God outside the universe, then where does the evidence point? It depends what the claim is, of course. If it's a natural claim, then obviously we can investigate. If it's a, quote, extraordinary claim, we could still, I argue in principle, we could still evaluate it, like the flood story, etc.
Exactly. This is why I take 2 different statements. One saying, okay, a piece of steak can revive a corpse. And then on the other hand, I say, I don't know, bacteria is the basis for our existence. And then I run through these and see which one works and which one doesn't, to show the discrepancy between the 2.
Yes, exactly. And you just keep ask all of these 10 questions about a particular claim. Yeah. Is the claimant playing by the rules of science? Now, this is, of course, a good one for us. And I notice more and more nowadays, particularly some Muslims, and maybe Christians have already done this years ago, who knows, because the Muslims are always catching up behind the Christians years later. But what some of the Muslims now are doing is trying to avoid science, trying to show that science is not, in fact, the best methodology or the only methodology for understanding the natural world. I don't think anybody's claiming that that's the only methodology, but it's certainly one of, if not the best one. And if you have another methodology that's better, then please present that. But trying to undermine science in some way because they don't like science, and of course it goes counter to some of their beliefs, is not going to wash with any of us that care about what's true or skeptical or critical. But it'll play wonderfully into the theist's hands, because if they could get rid of science, well, there's a major source of conflict that they can now throw out the window. Now they've got to use philosophy or some other methodology which, you know, doesn't seem to prove anywhere near as reliable or as useful as science. Number 8, is the claimant providing positive evidence? Yes. So again, obviously, if somebody makes a claim, we need positive evidence for it. And again, it's surprising how often people make claims, particularly in Speaker's Corner, but they're famous for doing that, where they don't present any evidence. If they've got a claim and it sort of goes along the line of their ideology, they think they're quite entitled to make the claim with no evidence. And then, of course, we need to disprove it. No, that's not the way the world works. Number 9, does the new theory account for as many phenomena as the old theory? Yes, great one. So evolution, if tomorrow evolution was false, if the entire body of evidence for evolution was false, would that make creation true? No. Creation would have to explain everything that evolution appears to explain and more. And if it couldn't do that, or couldn't even do half of that, then that wouldn't be an explanation. So just because you disprove one doesn't mean the other one is automatically verified. Finally, number 10, are personal beliefs driving the claim? Yes, and that's obviously a big one for many people, as in, do they have a preconceived idea or beliefs around something that they want to be true, and therefore they will avoid looking at evidence that might falsify their beliefs and only look for evidence, which is cherry picking, of course, and inconsistent, but we see it all the time with theists in general. So there we go, a very useful list. You there have it again for prosperity, hopefully. And again, anybody is posterity, thank you. My apologies. Yes, indeed. My pronunciation sometimes leaves a lot to be desired.
I'm sorry.
No, do correct me. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's all good. So yes, that's very, very useful. So there you go. All of you theists out there, go and ask those 10 questions of any claim that comes out of your Quran or your ideology in general, or your book or anything else, and let's see how well it stacks up. And I look forward to you presenting something that meets all 10 of those criteria in a way that the 3 of us as panelists here would go, wow, you've got a point there. That meets all of those. That's something unique that we need to take extremely seriously, because it matches all of those criteria. So yes, very, very useful. Thank you,
Marshall. Have you thought of something? Have you thought of something that is verifiably true in the Quran? I mean, you've just seen the list. This is all you need to do. Take a claim in the Quran, run it against those 10 points, those 10 questions, and see if it's true. Have you found something that passes this? Anything. Just one single statement that runs according to this list. Anything.
Yes, I'm sure we'll be waiting a long time for that one. Take your time, come back to us. It may not happen immediately.
The embryology.
Oh.
Moderators are cunts. Thank you. Like no, actually, I'm a male.
Can you please put up some Quran verses on the screen? What Quran verses? Tell us which ones, pull-ups.
Any which one. Any which one. Okay, HM. Put HM on the screen. It's a Quran verse. HM.
Hang on, I've got Quran Explorer here, so is there a verse you can actually give me?
41:1.
41:1. So hang on a second. 41 verse 1. Yeah.
Not 920.
Okay, doesn't say much, but I will share the screen nonetheless. That's I'm not sure what that's supposed to show, but there we go. Let me share the screen here. And it is Quran Explorer. There we go. Present to everybody. So there we go. Ha-mim.
HM. 41:1.
Yeah.
One of the most important sentences in the Quran. It's guidance for mankind. H and M. Go to H
Does
and M.
anybody know what that actually means?
H&M.
When I look through the translations, obviously, they're all translating the same. Please see note.
The first sentence of the Quran, the first proper sentence, is
these letters are one of the miracles of the Quran, and none but Allah knows their meanings.
Exactly. There's 29 of these. Okay, so the first sentence in the Quran proper is ALM. This is the guidance that Marshall is talking about. So the guidance of the Quran, the first sentence in the Quran after Al-Fatiha is ALM. This is the major guidance that you can get from the Quran, ALM. And then 41.1, and there's 29 of these, which say, go buy your clothes in H&M. There you have it. It's 41.1. It tells you.
But I just love the bit in parentheses here. These letters are one of the miracles of the Quran, and none but Allah knows their meanings. So how on earth can you claim it's a miracle? I mean,
nobody knows.
Nobody knows, but we're just going to claim it's a miracle because nobody knows. Thank you. This is exactly what I'm talking about. There's critical thinking that is just non-existent here. We're going to claim a miracle because we don't understand it, but Allah knows best. Yeah. Okay. Let's just see if anybody else has got anything here. What does this guy have to say now? So there's only one of the 5 translations here that actually attempts to make that and perfectly demonstrates what I'm talking about. Dr. Motion. Yeah. Okay. Yes. It's a miracle because the Quran says so. I don't even think the Quran says so. Somebody just assumed that it is, and Allah knows best. Is there anywhere in the Quran that actually says that this is a guidance from Allah and only He knows best? Is there anywhere, or are they just assuming that's the case with these words?
Oops, you got me there. Is there anything in the Quran says that Allah knows best? No. Not that I know of. I'm not aware of any sentence like that in the Quran.
So somebody has gone, okay, nobody understands what this means. Nobody apparently understands what the meaning of this is. There's nowhere in the Quran that talks about the meaning. So what we're going to do is we're going to assume that only Allah knows this and it must be a miracle.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, put up one at a time here. Hang on. Put up 865.66. Okay, 8. Hang on a second.
I don't know that. What is that?
865 to 66. Let me just do that to 66 here. Let's start with good old Yusuf Ali and share the screen on that one. Let's do that one. Quranic Explorer, here we go. Present to everybody. O Prophet, rose the believers to the fight. If there are 20 amongst you, patient and persevering, they will vanquish 200. If 100, they will vanquish 1,000 of the unbelievers. For these are people without understanding. For the present, Allah hath lightened your task, for He knoweth that there is a weak spot in you. But even so, if there are 100 of you patient and persevering, they will vanquish 200. And if 1,000, they will vanquish 2,000, with the leave of Allah. For Allah is with those who patiently preserve.
Wow, I need to remember this. This is potent stuff.
They will vanquish 1,000. So if they will vanquish, patient and preserving, they will vanquish 200. If there's 100, they will vanquish 1,000 of unbelievers. But then further down it says, if there are 100 of you patient and preserving, they will vanquish 200. And if 1,000, they will vanquish 2,000. So suddenly it's...
the ratio is a bit off, yeah.
So
I mean, we know this God.
If there's 100, they will vanquish 1,000 there. And then over here, let me just see. And if there are 100, they will vanquish. And if there are 100 of you patient preserving, they will vanquish 200. There's 100, they will vanquish 1,000 unbelievers. And if there are 100 of you patient preserving, they will vanquish 200. So there was
once it's double, once it's factor of 10, yeah.
And then if there's 1,000, they will vanquish 2,000. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, they're all pretty much the same, I guess. Here's Picthol. If there be 20 of you steadfast, they shall overcome 200. And if there be of you 100 steadfast, they shall overcome 1,000 of those who disbelieve, because they, the disbelievers, are folk without intelligence. Ah, I see. Okay. So
yeah, but Rob, the point here is, how does that fit in with the claim that jihad, in other words, the fighting for Allah, is spiritual?
Is that what's being said in the chat?
No, in general. This is the claim. That there is nothing violent in the Quran. It's all spiritual.
Well, it depends what you mean by overcome, I guess, doesn't it? So if we're looking there and we go, they shall overcome, do they mean overcome as in like on a battle?
Convert.
Do they mean overcome by a battle of wits? Or what do they actually mean?
Chess.
Because here you're talking about intelligence. So, I mean, I'm just reading this for the first time. So you could plausibly argue that 20 steadfast, whatever that steadfast is supposed to mean, shall overcome 200. And if there be of you 100 steadfast, they shall overcome 1,000 of those who disbelieve, because the disbelievers are folk without intelligence. So being steadfast obviously has some meaning, which isn't clear here. But if overcome, what does overcome mean? Does it mean in a battle because you're not intelligent and able to fight in a sequence? Does it mean a battle of wits, as in like you're going to, I don't know, come up with some new information? What exactly does that refer to?
So this is 865, right?
Yes, this is 865 and 66.
Okay, let me just go to Quran X. And then what we do is we check what the Hadiths say about this.
I'll put up
what the tafsir say.
Okay, yeah, have a look at that. I'm going to look at 33. What is it? What did the person ask there? Put up 3353. Let's put up 3353. Oh, see what that's got to say. 3353, and we'll go again with Yusuf Ali to start with.
The disbelievers expend their wealth in waging war against the Prophet in order to bar from God's way, and they will expend until the end. They will be also angry and regret having lost it and lost what they. So there's nothing different here. They're just repeating what it says.
Okay, I'm just going to do another one here, which is somebody else is asking me to do this one, which is the verse Surah 33, verse 53. O ye who believe, enter not the Prophet's houses until leave is given you for a meal, and then not so early as to wait for its preparation. But when ye are invited, enter, and when ye have taken your meal, disperse without seeking familiar talk. Such behavior annoys the Prophet. He is ashamed to dismiss you, but Allah is not ashamed to tell you the truth. And when ye ask his ladies for anything ye want, ask them from before a screen. That makes for greater purity for your hearts and for theirs. Nor is it right for you that ye should annoy Allah's messenger, or that ye should marry his widows after him at any time. Truly, such a thing is Allah's sight is an enormity. I wonder this is so hard to read. It's just like all over the show. I mean, goodness. So yes, Picthol, enter not the dwellings of the Prophet for a meal without waiting for the proper time, unless permission is granted to you. But if you are invited, enter, and when the meal is ended, then disperse. Linger not for conversation. No, that would cause annoyance to the Prophet. I know. Why would conversation cause annoyance to the Prophet? Anyway, and he would be shy of asking you to go. Really? He's not normally shy about asking or telling people what to do, but Allah is not shy of the truth. And when you ask them, the wives of the prophets, anything, ask it of them from behind a curtain. That is purer for your hearts and for theirs. Why? I mean, they're obviously dressed in some way that keeps them modest, so why hiding behind a curtain? And it is not for you to cause annoyance to the messenger of Allah, nor that ye should ever marry one of his wives after him. Lo, that in Allah's sight would be an enormity. Right, okay. There we go.
And I'm getting no joy with the tafsirs either. They just exhort the believers to fight the disbelievers if they be 20.
This is Allah giving his buddy Muhammad, I guess, some verses because Muhammad is shy. Okay, so that's the point, right? Suddenly Muhammad is shy. Normally he's not shy to do anything or to say anything. Suddenly he's shy to ask you to leave. That sounds unusual, uncharacteristically shy of the person that we claim to know as Muhammad. Why is he shy? He doesn't want to be bad manners or something.
Jay Smith mentioned an eclipse took place. Wow.
Lily, you're welcome to join. I'll post the link in the Hangout for you.
It was revealed in the second age of the Battle of Badr, the first battle. I don't really believe that any of these battles really took place, okay, because there's no evidence for any of them. A detailed and comprehensive review of the battle. No, I don't see that. I see that this was made up.
But what do you see as made up?
The battles. English tafsir, Quran, Com 8. Yeah, I just read this. I just read the tafsir, and unfortunately, I could not find anything that was all that much different from what the Quran says. All it says is, look, you need to fight, and 200 people can overcome 2,000, and 2,000 can overcome 4,000. So the mistake in the arithmetic is not being adjusted in any which way. It's not being explained. There is still this problem, and it doesn't say anything about a spiritual battle. It's very physical.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the that is.
Spoils of war. Yeah, but you see, this is the point. You could always go and say the war is a spiritual war. It is, how can I stop smoking, for example? This is the standard reply from Muslims, from apologists that I get. It is the challenge, and you are stopping smoking, and therefore the challenge is for you and your own self to go and do something in the case for Allah, which is to stop smoking. Okay, but if you read now 865, is there any way that you can spiritualize this? I don't see that.
What with the overcoming, standing steadfast and overcoming because they're not intelligent?
Yes. I mean, if you are overcoming 2,000, if there's only 20 of you or whatever, can that go and relate to non-smoking? Can you overcome 200 smokers if there's only 20 smokers of you?
I mean, normally one would consider that's a battle. And, you know, the intelligent could very well mean that the people that you as a believer are far more intelligent. In other words, you're able to battle in a more sophisticated way and overcome people, you know.
So how do you overcome 200 if there's only 20 of you?
But this ayah, I think, was sent down in a specific battle according to the Muslim tradition. So it cannot say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure. But is there any way of spiritualizing it? No, it must be a battle. It must be physical. It must be really killing 2,000 when there's only 200 of you.
I mean, people who say otherwise are just full of it. I mean, I'd
love to know how you can do that. How can you argue for a spiritualization if it's physical?
Because you can say everything's spiritual in a sense.
It's both physical and spiritual, but it's like fasting. Fasting is physical and spiritual. But I even know what you mean. You mean that jihad is like an inner struggle with yourself.
Okay, exactly. And how do you do this with 865?
It's silly. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that jihad in fiqh means you go and fight the kuffar, literally fight them. And there are, I don't know how many ayahs that go into details that you should strike their necks and blah, blah, blah.
I'm going back to watching Titans. Makes more sense than this. Really? Okay.
That's fine. Take care. Sharif, can you explain the discrepancy in the ratio? Most Arab and David Wood have the best channels critiquing Islam. Well, I don't know. Maybe some people think Christian Prince does as well.
No, me.
You guys, this is just a battle. Okay, but Sharif, if this is just a battle, then the Quran is basically saying the believers will overcome disbelievers if they're steadfast. I'm assuming steadfast means as long as they keep believing, and somehow that gives them intelligence, and the non-believers are unintelligent. Therefore, you know, they can defeat a greater number of non-believers simply by being steadfast.
Where does it say that in the Quran, that this is only about a battle? So this is no longer applicable today?
Oh, I don't know. No doubt somebody would have come up with their interpretation of why it's no longer available, no longer applicable today. But yes, you need something to say that after a certain time, or we need to be clear that this is no longer applicable. Yeah,
Okay.
it could be that David Wood does talk sense about Islam, and from what I've seen, he seems to talk some sense about it. But then again, you know, in his head, he's partitioned his head as well because he's a Christian. So, you know, this is what I see, and same with the Christian Prince. And I don't know about the masked Arab. Is he a non-believer or is he a believer? Or what is he?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the same as Christian Prince. I mean, he's also very good at dissecting.
Yeah, but is he a Christian or is he a non-believer? I mean,
Christian.
Is he? Which, you know, to me is kind of strange that they don't take the more reasonable position of non-belief. But it seems like, you know, they can be very, very
selective
in the sense of being very critical, have the critical thinking working against Islam and skeptical of Islam, but not of Christianity. For them, somehow they'd all make, somebody's saying there, masked Arab is an unbeliever. Okay, good. Masked Arab is an atheist. Great. Well, there's at least somebody who's, I would suggest, using the full critical thinking faculties.
Yes.
Because I say
did you see the video on Christian Prince that you made put up?
Say again?
Did you see the video on Christian Prince that you made brought up?
No, I haven't seen it. Sorry.
I mean, Christian Prince makes a total idiot of himself, a total fool. The way that he argues about evolution, about atheists, is ridiculous. It's a laugh.
Send me the link. I'll be interested. Yeah, because you seem to suggest that you wouldn't take him on. I was like, well, why not? We would take him on.
Yeah, but exactly. Looking at what he said there, I sort of did a take. I said, am I justified in having respect for this guy? I mean, this guy is such a. He was such an asshole. He was such a primitive fool in arguing. You can you put up a link, because I don't know, I can't remember the link.
Is being an atheist is the default good position. So Shan, being an atheist is the default position. One can argue whether it's a good position. I would suggest yes, it is. So yes, it's the default position. So non-belief in extraordinary claims, which you do, by the way, as well, is the default position. Rob, you must watch. You will be shocked. Send us the link, please, guys. Put the link in there. Happy to have a look at that.
Christian Prince, atheists have become dumb stupid. I found it. All I need to do is click on the link.
Yeah, give us the link.
It opens, and I'll send you the link in 2 seconds. There we go. Copy, close, go back. Here it is. Wow, I'm so good, eh?
You're the man. Pop it in the main chat as well. Okay, I'll do that. Cool.
Can I put it in here?
Yeah, you've done it. So,
but can I put it in here? Yes, I can.
Yeah, you've got rights there. There you go.
I wasn't sure.
Cool. I will. I'll definitely go watch that. Christian Prince, atheist.
It makes you doubt his age, really.
But you know, I would never say the same about all Muslims. What I do say, there are certain claims I'll make, obviously, about all Muslims, which is that at some point they weren't thinking critically if they've claimed to have analyzed their religion. But I wouldn't say all Muslims are unintelligent or don't know what they're talking about, or whatever the case may be. I'd never make that claim. So I would never say all Muslims are, what is the term there that was used? All Muslims have become dumb, stupid, idiot, crazy. I wouldn't say that about all of them. I'd say some of them, of course, clearly.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to, nobody that I'm aware of does a generalization, says all people. I would say that for certain things. Like I say, I think all theists, not just Muslims, but all theists, have relaxed their critical thinking at some point.
The same thing as Jesus didn't exist. I would never say that. I would say the Jesus as described in the Gospels didn't exist in that shape and form, or in the Quran. The same as Muhammad as described in the Sunnah doesn't exist or didn't exist. That's a different story, but you can't categorically say Jesus didn't exist as such. There, I would also be a little bit more careful.
Yes, I mean, I accept the overwhelming historical evidence. If they say that there was a person called Jesus, I'm quite happy to accept that. What I won't accept is that he rose from the dead. I mean, but even Muslims don't accept that, obviously, because it differs with their Quran. If you suddenly found a verse in the Quran that said Jesus did rise from the dead, suddenly they'd all accept it. Somebody's asking me to put something in here. 532,
532 and 533.
Yep, okay, I will do that. Let me share the screen on that. Again, when you're asking me to put verses on here, tell me what they're supposed to relate to, so that we all know what the point of this is.
Jesus died again in Corpus Christi, Texas. Yeah.
So here we go. Surah 5, verse 32 and 33. For that cause we decreed for the children of Israel that whoever killeth a human being for other than manslaughter or corruption in the earth, it shall be as if he killed all mankind. And whoever saveth the life of one, it shall be as if he saved the life of all mankind. Our messengers come unto them of old with clear proofs of Allah's sovereignty, but afterwards, lo, many of them became progenitors in the earth. The only reward of those who make war upon Allah and his messenger and strive after corruption of the land will be that they will be killed or crucified, or have their hands or feet on alternative sides cut off, or will be expelled out of the land. Such will be their degradation in the world, and in the hereafter theirs will be an awful doom. So everybody quotes Quran 5:32, but they don't, for some reason, amazingly, quote Quran 5:33. I wonder why.
No, the thing is that there's two things here. Number one, they always leave out for that cause we decreed for the children of Israel. Okay, this they leave out. So they always start with whoever killeth a human being is as if he had killed all mankind. Now, what the second thing is that they leave out in just this one is unless, and this is the funny thing is, there is an unless function here. For other, being for other than, and now you're getting some reasons why you can kill someone, and that is
you're not supposed to read that.
Corruption.
You should only read the first line there.
And this is the point. This verse or this sentence, what is always the 532 is always being taken as the reason why the Quran says don't kill people in general, is saying exactly the opposite, because it says you can kill someone just for corruption. What does corruption mean? Nobody knows. It can be anything. If you fart the wrong direction, you can be killed because you are corrupting the earth. It doesn't say what the reasons are, so you can be killed for anything.
But is this the only verse that says this, that they all quote? Because I mean,
yes.
If it is, then they're quoting it horribly wrongly.
Yes. This is the favorite one. This is the one that Obama quoted. This is the one that Bush quoted. This is the one that everybody quotes. If you kill a human being, it shall be as if you'd killed all mankind. And if you save the life of one, you have saved the life of everyone, of the whole mankind. This is the quote that you always get. And in reality, if you read it in the Quran, it says the exact opposite of what they claim. Number one. And number two, it is restricted to Jews who are not allowed to kill anyone. And then the sentence after this 32 says exactly the opposite of what this one says.
Yeah. I mean, that's not unexpected, but I mean, that's very blatant, isn't it? It's not as if...
Yeah, but it's so dishonest. And this is why Obama, Bush, and all these other guys, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's Merkel or Blair or whoever, they all quote this one sentence. And it is so wrong.
Yeah, maybe it's a case of, like Hitler said, you know, even despots can make accurate statements. You know, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. In other words, the more people say something, the more people in authority say something, the more maybe the layman in the street will go, well, if the prime minister or multiple prime ministers or people that I think is authoritative keep saying this, it must be true. Because I'm not going to go read it for myself. And so I'm going to trust somebody that I think is an authority.
Yeah.
And if they said it, then it must be true.
And this is the problem, that a lot, now what do you mean a lot? Almost all politicians go to Muslims and ask them to explain the Quran.
Yes, because they obviously think that Muslims can explain the Quran and do so objectively and accurately. Now, again, not claiming that all Muslims can't do that, but it seems like whoever they're going to are being very selective. But it just takes opening it. I've got 5 translations there. Not one of them, you know, makes this the statement as one of the Bush or whoever else has said it. They've all said it exactly the way you've read it there as well. So unless all the translations are wrong and they bring up some other new translation, I haven't got the actual latest Sahih International. That might have it completely redone. I mean, I've looked at Sahih International and put it against these old versions. Sahih International is like a completely sanitized version. It's almost like they have completely mistranslated it on purpose.
Okay, I have the whitewashed version.
Have you?
Abdul Halim, let me see what he says.
Yeah. Golf snake. Okay. So there we go. Again, if anybody wants to join, feel free to join us. Let me know if you've got any problems joining. I have sent the link to some people, but we haven't had anybody else join us at the moment. So Harry, Ansa, Lily, feel free to join us. If you're a Muslim and you're watching and you want to have a conversation and tell us that we're wrong on something, again, friend me or send me a message on Facebook. Here is my details, and I will give you the link. If you abuse it in any way, you'll be banned for life. I will not let you ever come on again. So there we go.
We decreed to the children of Israel that if anyone kills a person, unless in retribution for the murder or spreading corruption in them, it is if he kills all mankind, while if any saves their lives, it is if he saves the lives of all mankind. Our messengers came to him with clear signs, and many of them are continuous. Those who wage war against God as messenger and strive to spread corruption in the land should be punished by death, crucifixion, amputation of alternate hands and feet, or banishment from the land. Okay, so even the whitewashed version by Abdul Halim says the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And this is the mildest one. That's the one that you always use in Speaker's Corner.
Yes, because it's like you say, it definitely sounds like it's been changed considerably to make it more palatable for English readers or the Western world or whatever. But that's why I like the older ones. You know, if you can go back to pre-1920s, then you'll see that none of the translations have got the expand or expanders in there. You know, it's the vastness of space. And so they changed the translation and then claimed that the Quran's got miracles, this sort of thing. But that's the thing, like, you know, if people don't read it, then obviously they're going to accept it. These people must be, you know, must be honest. Well, why? No. We you know, got to go and have a look and see, especially for people that have got a preconceived idea and now want to make it fit with Western civilization. They very likely have a biased idea. Corruption is terrorism. Where do you get that, Sharif? Have you got any backing for that? Or is that just your personal interpretation of what you think it could mean? Quran 21:33 is often used as scientific miracles. I read a book by Wallace Bridge, so similar to the Egyptian myth of Nut and Geb and the primordial sea Nu. Quran 21:30. Let's see what Quran 21:30.
I'm taking a hard look at our Mr. Redbeard Hamza, where he claims that an agnostic atheist was refuted using science. And this is so stupid.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm taking a hard look at this one, and I'm thinking maybe I should make a video just showing how stupid this guy really is. I mean, hijab is an arsehole, okay? He will just go and pretend and blah, blah. But this Hamza guy is really beyond everything. This is ridiculous. And it feels terrible. It feels like stealing candy from a baby.
If you've got to do it, you've got to do it. So 21:30, yes, this one's quite famous, isn't it? Do not the unbelievers see that the heaven and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation? Before we clove them asunder, we have made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? Obviously, as I pointed out many times, there's two errors there. One is the heavens and the earth being cloven asunder. We know that's not true. And then being created, then being made from water. Now, if made from water means that we were created from water, then obviously that's not true. Do we contain water? Yes, of course. But are we made from water? And have not those who disbelieve known that the heavens and the earth were one piece? Then we parted them, and we made every living thing of water. Will they then not believe? No, I'm afraid I will still not believe. So yeah, call me a skeptic. I won't believe. Did the believers not observe that the heavens and the earth were closed, and then we opened them? Okay, so there's a different one. The classical interpretation of this verse is that in the beginning the sky was closed in the sense that it did not rain, and the earth was closed in the sense that it did not grow any vegetation. And then Allah opened the sky and it started raining, and opened the earth to grow plants. But another possible translation of the verse may be as follows: the heavens and the earth were joint, were a joint mass, then we disjoined them. Well, obviously we know that's not true. So in this verse would be referring to the initial stage of creation in which the heavens and the earth were joined together and were separated by Allah at the later stage. The modern Big Bang theory seems to be close to this concept. No, it's not. No, it's not. Obviously somebody who knows nothing about cosmology but wants to make it fit. So there we go. Another English one here. Have not those who disbelieve known that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one united piece? Then we parted them. Have we made from water every living thing? Will they not then believe? No, we won't believe. Sorry. It's just not believable.
Buy supercars. And no, Adam was made from dust, not mud.
Was it clay or dust?
Dust.
Oh, okay. I
Clay.
always thought it was clay and a clot of blood.
No, this is humans. Adam itself, because
Oh.
there's a sentence in the Quran which says where he's comparing Adam to Jesus, and this it's a really funny sentence because he said of Adam as he did of Jesus, be and he was. Actually, it's a mistake. It's a grammatical mistake because it also says be and he is, but never mind that. And then in another sentence it says that Adam was created from dust. So we don't know whether Jesus was created from dust or Adam was created from dust, because in another sentence, then Jesus obviously was born from Maryam, the sister of Moses and Aaron. So there are several sentences in the Quran which are a little bit ambiguous, one of them being whether he was created. And for the main thing is he was created from dust, but was this in heaven or was this somewhere else?
Well, why would you be made from dust in heaven? Surely dust is on the earth. Or is dust
Heaven
somewhere
is
else?
very dusty. No.
Ah.
They also have day and night in heaven. What do you mean?
Ah, okay. Lily's saying she's at work there. Cool. Let's have one more topic, shall we? What were you originally talking about or thinking about there?
I think I suggested 5 or something, which went through my mind at the time, but I can't
Purpose
remember.
of life, possible justification of Islam. Is a Muslim better? How much politics in Islam? Purpose of life. That's often one that we get, don't we? Or that's a challenge against non-believers. You guys don't have a objective purpose or cosmic purpose for life. We do, and our purpose is to worship and submit to God. I'm going like, thank goodness I don't have that purpose, or don't believe I have that purpose. I can have a purpose for life. Do I have an objective purpose for life? I don't know. Does that make your one better than mine, or somehow superior? The fact that you can.
Well, there's several texts to this one, because the purpose of being a Muslim is the central fact, I think, for a Muslim, why they are a Muslim, because they're saying it gives me a purpose in my life which is not empty, which is not just living life for the sake of living a life, but it's actually something that I am doing to achieve something. Whereas an atheist will just live life and they are born and then they die and that's the end of that one. I at least have a purpose in that everything that I am doing is geared towards an afterlife, which I'm going to enjoy for eternity, where I am doing everything I possibly humanly can to achieve this afterlife as a positive experience, whereas somebody who doesn't do it will just roast in hell. And this is one of the central things. And I don't understand why this is so strong with Muslims, that they believe this concept of heaven and hell to be so persuasive that they will go and waste their lives and actually go and do all these things without any kind of evidence showing that there is going to be happening when you are actually dead. This for me is amazing, how strong this argument of with the purpose of life is.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's because once you've been given a purpose and you believe it's come from on high, well, then you just go with it. You don't question it, and you just do what you've been told, because the reward seemingly to you seems to be much greater than life here. So life is just a test here. But they all fear, if you ask them, when I have asked Muslims, when I say all, the ones that I have asked, they all fear that they maybe haven't done enough, that they could still be judged and go to hell. And so there's always that fear that I'm not doing enough, that maybe I could be on Judgment Day and Allah will point out 1 or 2 things that I didn't do or didn't do enough of, and then I might go to hell. And so it's a constant methodology to keep you in line and keep you submissive and following this so-called test.
Now, if you take the Quran as a recruitment manual for the 7th century or 8th century, actually 9th, then it makes sense. But if you take it from a spiritual point of view, it doesn't make any sense, because what you're doing is you're saying that there's a God who is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all benign. And at the same time, this God doesn't know what the hell is going on because he needs to test you. Where in reality, they are saying that it's, omniscience and omniscient and should know in reality what is going to happen. So you shouldn't be required to take a test. Then they come with the analogy of, well, it's like a teacher.
Yes.
So a teacher comes and teaches the pupils, and a teacher can, of course, forfeit the test and saying, well, you're never going to pass, but then maybe the pupil will surprise the teacher and will pass the test. Well, hang on, this is not possible with the God, is it? Because the God is omniscient and knows exactly. Or maybe you're saying, well, maybe God does not know what is going to happen and therefore it requires the test. Well, it doesn't work. So you have all these contradictions. And then you're saying, well, if you don't pass the test, this all-loving, all-benign, all-merciful God is going to stick you into hell. Now, what kind of an all-merciful God has a hell? That's impossible. It's a contradiction in itself. It's an oxymoron. So how can you be stuck into a hell that doesn't exist if there is actually an all-benign, all-loving, and all-good and all-merciful God? It doesn't work. So it doesn't matter what part of this you look at, it never works. There's always a contradiction.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, the contradiction there is clear, but like you say, whenever Muslims bring up an analogy, I'm immediately going, oh my goodness, this is going to be problematic. Why are you doing this? It's if they bring up the analogy to try and help me understand something. If I don't understand something, I'll ask. Don't bring up an analogy to try and help me understand something, because what you're going to do is quote a bad analogy, and now I have to go and correct you on that. So whenever I hear Muslims, any Muslim bringing up an analogy, I'm going, okay, this is very likely to be problematic.
This is why I'm asking the question, is it possible, theoretically, is it possible for an all-knowing, all-loving, all-capable, all-powerful, all-whatever God to create a human being that will just go through some routines and be rewarded at the end? If that is possible, why doesn't this God do it? Why is this God bad at doing this very, very basic task? Because we have 80% of the population that is not a Muslim. The Quran says everything bows down and worships God. That is not true. 80% of the human population doesn't do it.
No, but Stops, you're forgetting one important thing. We all have the fitra, of course.
But it's so funny that they say everything. The Quran says everything, and we don't. 80% don't. So this God is such a failure. It's such an incompetent, bumbling idiot, and people still worship this. Come on, if a God is not even capable of running a couple of programs to create a perfect human being the way that it wants to do what it wants it to do, why would you go and worship it?
Because life is all a test, and we've got to pass the test, because we've got to be eternally grateful for being created. Wouldn't you want the same? No, I don't. I would say, thank you, Mom, for creating me, because this is the analogy I get. Wouldn't you be grateful to your parents? Yes, I'd say to my mom, thank you very much for bringing me into the world, although you didn't choose me specifically. You just chose to have a child, and it happened to be me. But yes, I'm grateful that you brought me into the world. Am I going to supplicate and be submissive to you for my entire life? No. So again, that very poor analogy is just totally useless. And the same with God. Free will is difficult to manage. No kidding, Shan. It's not only is it difficult, it's impossible. So, don't kid yourself that it's just difficult. It's impossible. Your version of free will and omniscience, you've got no chance. So, although again, you'll try and dance around this, does knowledge force somebody to do something? I mean, how tall is Tuesday? How heavy is the color blue? I mean, these are incoherent questions. And so
how heavy you can do, but how tall is Tuesday is good.
Okay. How heavy is blue?
Yeah, you can, because it's a wavelength. It's an electromagnetic wave. You can
as in like weight, in like kilograms. Yeah. Rob, you need to watch both. You're trying to rationalize free will and predestination. Yes, Ralph, send me the link for that. Although I don't think I'm going to be impressed. But go ahead.
Photons doesn't interact with the Higgs field, so they don't have mass.
The solar wind will beg to differ.
But on the other hand, blue is, maybe you can say blue is, because blueness is not really in the wavelength. It's in the blueness only appears in your brain or in your mind. So maybe you can say that the neurons that create the blueness in your mind has a weight.
No, but they can
it's
measure
the word. The word, what we assign to it, this is in your mind. But the wavelength is absolute. There it's objective.
Yes, yes, agreed. So the red one is a stretch wavelength, long waves, and of course the blue is the condensed wave. So that's how they can tell that Andromeda is moving towards us and other galaxies are moving away from us through the red or blue shift. And so you can see clearly whether, you know, anything's coming towards us or anything's moving away from us. And like you say, those wavelengths are the wavelengths. Now we can assign the label blue and red, but we could just say long wavelength and short wavelength. But, you know, the color appears to our eyes to be red or blue, or again, just the labels, but scientific instruments can pick that up. Again, we're just labeling red, blue. But, you know, that, I suppose that's arbitrary. Somebody came up with the word red, but they could have come up with the word gobbledygook and diddly dock. And, you know, it would still, we could still give that meaning from the beginning of time to mean like long wavelength or short wavelength. So yeah, the label is arbitrary, I guess, but the definition, I guess, or whatever it refers to isn't arbitrary. Here's the link. He's gaping at straws.
I would love to know whether red pushes more than blue.
Pushes more than blue? What do you mean?
Okay, you have sunlight. If you have sunlight, the photons, you can measure the impact of photons. Now,
yeah.
Okay, now does the wavelength?
So they have energy. They have energy, yes.
Yes, but now, does the wavelength of a photon, in other words, the vibration rhythm pattern, does that change the impact?
Yes.
Because this I've never thought of.
Yes, it does.
And which one is better? Which one has more impact? Is it red or blue?
Well, the absolute best is if you kind of synchronize them, like in lasers.
Yeah, white. Yeah.
No. Like in lasers, you synchronize so they become like.
I see what you mean. Okay.
So like they wave in the same pattern.
True, because you're riding on the wave of a yeah. This is true, but now is a blue or a red laser more potent? You're right. It takes more energy to create a blue laser than it does a red one, or a green one actually. So that would indicate that blue is more potent than red because it takes more energy to create it, or not? I think yes. Okay, what does it have to do with Islam? Fuck all, nothing.
Cool. Are we done, or is there anything else that we want to share or do?
Maybe I should find a random hadith of the day here.
Random hadith there.
Isn't there a page actually which is exactly that, random hadith of the day or something?
What was this thing, Stops? You put in here this. Oh, yes, never mind. Yeah, you were going to do a video on that with that guy talking to Kalam. Yeah, I just wondered there because I still saw that coming up there.
A video talking to Kalam?
Yeah, Brother Mansur Kalam go around something. What is it?
I know that there's a video with
round table discussion. Sorry?
And Kalam also appears in this, but only very briefly, because he asked the question, but because the question is a good question, the red beard doesn't answer it.
What was his good question?
What methodology do you employ to ascertain that Islam has any value, or that your God has a value and exists and is the best one, or something like that? But
okay.
The main crux is the methodology, not just give me the reasons or give me your intuition or give me your whatever, but give me the methodology. And this is a good question, and this is why he can't answer it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So like with science, we could give you a methodology, falsification,
exactly,
repeatable testing, etc.
The Kalam vid was good with the older Muslim. Which one is this? There was some guy, I saw a video now where everybody says Mansour took left this guy who has a big jacket on, which is something about Super Dawa or King Dawa or Dawa King or something like that. And this guy was such an asshole. And the Muslims went and said, this is now the king of Speaker's Corner. Nobody can argue with him. And I thought, but he's an idiot. He does the same thing as everybody else. You know,
about this guy? This video?
I can't remember what his name is. And I only remember he actually has a jacket which says on the back King Dawa or Dawa King or something like this.
Yeah, it might be the video I've posted there.
And I watched this, I was laughing hysterically because this guy was so stupid.
Yeah, the only reasonably intelligent guy that I've come across in Speaker's Corner actually is a guy called, he's an older guy, Tariq. I don't know if you've seen him. There's one video on my channel with him. I don't know if he's a mathematician or something like that, but he seems quite knowledgeable, and I actually wanted to ask him and I never got to do it. You know, why is he a Muslim? Because he seems to be, you know, against the grain. In other words, he appears to have some intelligence. It's not like the normal Speaker's Corner people. And it was just a shame because he was there, and then the next week Phil came. I would love him and Phil to have had a conversation, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And Phil came down the next week, and I've got some videos that I'll be releasing with Phil in. But he was kind of frustrated. He says, every time I come down, this is the sort of conversation I have. I went, oh, sorry, you know, I can't have people on demand. Yeah, I wish I could. You know, it's just come down and hope for the best type of thing. So he was a bit annoyed there's an hour-long video with a guy that didn't want his face on. So like I've got the camera pointed down, you see their hands and feet, and Phil goes on there, and eventually.
Which one is Abbas? I don't know Abbas. I don't know these guys.
Yeah, Abbas is the guy that originally spoke to Phil. He goes on LBC radio occasionally. He greeted me last time I was there on Sunday. He had an orange shirt on, and actually I was looking for him because Phil might have wanted to have a conversation.
I posted one video about Babylonian creation, but I thought the Sumerian, the one has been removed, sadly.
Okay. Has Polite Hamza been around? No, Polite Hamza has gone back to Saudi Arabia. He's originally from Bangladesh, but he was only here for 3 weeks, and then he went back to Saudi Arabia. So very unlikely we'll be seeing Polite Hamza again anytime soon. But they can all take a leaf out of his book in how to conduct themselves. And in fact, I've got a few verses here that I guess Muslims have forgotten about. I think you gave these to me, Stops, and I went and got the full verses off the internet and so forth. So I thought these could be useful to read. And let me just make.
We're being criticized. We're being boring. There's too much harmony. We need to fight more.
So here we go. Here's some interesting verses that I don't think most speakers in Speaker's Corner, most Muslims anyway, are following. So let's put these up for people to go and view. And you gave them to me, and then I just went and got the full verse, just in case people think we're cherry picking like one sentence.
To be consistent with data protection laws, we're asking you to take a moment to review key points of Google's privacy policy. This isn't about a change that we've made, but please review some key points. You can revoke your consent at any time. We'll need you to do this in order to continue using Google services. What the fuck are they doing now?
What are you doing? Where's that on? Let me just read this quickly.
I just opened what you just said with Brother Mansour and Kalam. And before you continue, suddenly I've got this message on the screen where Google wants me to do something. I mean, they are so full of shit.
That's true. So here are some verses that you gave me originally that I've just got the full ones for that perhaps Muslims are not doing. Oh, ye who believe, stand firmly for Allah,
these all the time,
as witnesses to fair dealing, and let not hatred of others make you swerve to wrong and depart from justice.
This is not the version that I use. I use clear English.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the full version of it so that people go, okay, which one are you using? Fear for Allah, for Allah is well acquainted with ye. Do not walk on the earth in haughty style. I wonder who does that. You can either tear apart the earth apart, nor can you match the mountains in height.
I'm not aggressive. Fuck you.
And be moderate in your walk and lower your voice. Surely the ugliest of voices, the voices of the donkeys. Again, one has to wonder who does that. Oh, ye who believe, no men should ever scoff at other men. Maybe the latter be better than the former. nor should women ever scoff at other women. Maybe the latter women are better than the former ones, and do not find fault with one another, nor call one another with bad nicknames. Bad is the name of sinfulness after embracing faith. If anyone does not repent, then such people are the wrongdoers.
Yeah, the thing is, don't call each other with bad nicknames. This is the one that I always quote.
And do not find fault and call each other. Yes. And of course, this is their book, so one would think that they would want to follow their book. The hour has drawn near and the moon has been cleft asunder. Yes, not sure about that. The people of Mecca requested Prophet Muhammad to show them a miracle, so he showed them the splitting of the moon. I'm not sure why I've got that in there. That's not necessarily got to do with the same thing, so we'll take that out. But didn't you stop say that the moon was still to be cleft asunder? And here it's saying the moon has been cleft asunder. In other words, it happened in the past. Somebody said that.
It was supposed to have happened during the lifetime of Muhammad.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. So in case any Muslims are wanting it, there's just some moral virtues that you might want to, as Muslims, go back and review, because it obviously comes from your book. So surely you should be reviewing your own ways and your dealings with other people. Of course, we atheists don't have a book, so.
Did you have 16:125 in there?
No, I didn't.
That's the most important sentence. Hang on, let me see.
Yeah, see if you can pop that one in there. Have you seen Abbas debate Majid Nawaz on the Taliban? No, Rafi, I haven't seen him debate Nawaz. Islamic feminism. I wonder if Linda Sassour read this. Yes. So this is apparently, this is hadith. Is this a hadith? Menstrual periods. Sahih Bukhari, Book of Menstrual Periods, hadith. Here we go. Let me read this then. Unless Abu has already got himself. Abu, have you got a hadith?
There you go.
I just found a...
Okay, I'll give you this
125, the most important sentence in the entire Quran. Invite all. And now this is Peter 2 of the Christians. This is the one that Muslims need to do. Invite all to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious. In other words, a Muslim must discuss Islam and his belief and their belief or her belief in a way that is best and most gracious. So they're not allowed to be impolite. They're not allowed to swear at you. They're not allowed to do this and this and this. And they have to discuss their belief with you and do it in a nice way. Okay,
so again, I'm sure that's some Muslims can be reminded of their conduct, which
16:125. Remember this one. This is important.
So 16:125, yes? 16:125. Abu, can you read the one I've put into the chat there?
Okay. Once Allah's messenger went out, or narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri.
Oh, it's something different.
Once Allah's messenger ﷺ went out to the Musalla. I don't know what's in Arabic. Al-Musalla. Okay. Like where you pray. To offer the prayer of...
sorry, what is Musalla? Is that not the mosque?
Yeah, probably. Musalla means place of praying.
Ah, okay. I've never heard this expression before.
It's Salla yusalli. So you can say Musalla is the place of praying. It's probably of Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Fitr prayer. Then he passed by the woman and said, "O woman, give alms, as I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hellfire were women." They asked, "Why is it so, O Allah's messenger?" He replied, "You curse frequently and are ungrateful to your husbands. I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you. The woman asked, O Allah's Messenger, sallam, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion? He said, is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witness of 1 man? They replied in affirmative. He said, this is the deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses? The woman replied in the affirmative. He said, this is the deficiency in her religion.
So she has her period, and this is her own fault.
No. There's no free will.
Oh my God.
Hey, Doc, welcome.
Oh.
Joining us. How you keeping?
Yeah, how are you guys? I'm doing good.
What's new?
Nothing much. It's interesting. What's going on around the world with Islam?
Lily's saying that's her favorite hadith.
Oh, is it?
Ex-Muslim Lily in the chat is saying that's her favorite hadith.
That's a very funny hadith. I like that one.
Yes.
I don't
And
have
that
a
one
pic
wakes
of
up a lot of women.
Nobody knows
should
what
make up.
Ali looked like, so I just have a picture of some guy with a green piece of clothing on. This has nothing to do with Ali because nobody knows Ali.
You should tattoo it on your butt. Or maybe that's around.
Sorry, I was just answering a question from the chat.
What was the question?
Why do I have a picture of Ali?
I don't think it's Ali. I think that is the Shia's version of the Prophet.
No, this is some guy that Victor Höller came up with. This is some guy who is playing in some game, and I just took the picture of it. This is our old guy who used to read our hadiths.
No, but I think this is the Shia's picture of the Prophet or something like that.
This is projection.
He looks kind of stoned or something.
That's me.
Something that's not strictly Islam, but again, in a roundabout way relates. There was a guy on, I won't mention who, on a hangout recently claiming that scientific evidence, because he's actually Kemet or claims to be Kemet, but claiming that scientific evidence shows that there's a pyramid that's 25 or 65 million years old. And he claims that there was a Kemet university that knew about quantum mechanics 8,000 years ago. Eventually I got tired. I kicked him out of the hangout.
Why did you do that to yourselves? Come on.
Because this is like, craziness. But he reads a lot, and his dad's a scientist, blah, 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 and I asked what scientist, and he's, what did he say? Nothing to do with any of those science, but his father was a scientist of some kind. But to claim that, things are 25 million years old, and that there were supposedly humans around. The other thing was that the pyramids are so magnificently built. They are built so accurately that they cannot be reproduced today. So that must mean that the ancient people were superior in their building skills.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, is anything new, or are we going home?
Yeah, I think maybe, unless Doc's got anything to add, unless there's anything else in the chat there, if anybody's got anything to add, otherwise we'll call it an evening, and we'll be back next Friday. We'll have a topic. We'll come up with something for next Friday that's like an overriding topic. So I'll chat to the boys and see what, and we'll come back with a topic that everybody knows about. Just been very busy with a move, and I'm actually working at the moment this weekend, so I'm out on a client's site. So yeah, I should be back to normal next Friday.
My Muslim name is Abu Ben Skeptic.
Cool. Guys, thank you very much. It's
Al-Kufari, that's actually a nice one. Yeah, I like Al-Kufari.
I'm going to I'll leave this open as an after show, but I'm going to stop the broadcast now, so this will be the end of the recording. So Thank you to all our viewers. Thank you to Stops and the Last Minute Doc for joining us. And Abu, as always, we'll come up with something useful for next week. Thanks to everybody again. And we look forward to speaking and having a conversation again next Friday.
Thank you for Rob doing this, even though he's not really all that settled yet.
No problem. Always good to chat to you guys anyway. Thanks, guys. Take
Cheers,
care.
guys.